Welcome to another FPL deadline stream, and a happy new year to everyone watching. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's always appreciated, and we have some new goals for the year, and I've already made 3 transfers. A -4 hit has been taken. There's so much to cover. We've obviously got 2 teams having a double in Fulham and Chelsea, and they're not particularly great doubles. I still sustain a lot of what I've said before, and we're going to go through so many of your questions, cover different topics, talk about the captaincy, which I think for once will be quite varied and balanced. It's not just the usual Captain Haaland and don't really think about it. We actually have a decision to make this week, even amongst these single game week players. So let's get straight into your questions. Thank you very much, like I said already, and let's have a great stream today, and hopefully you do enjoy it. So let's go right from the beginning. I'll try to be very quick because I need to be. Hi Dylan, Captain Mitrovic or Mount? I would personally go for Mitrovic. The only doubt is if he gets a yellow card against Leicester, he will then be suspended for the Fulham derby against Chelsea, but I think he will remain available. I mean, that's famous last words, isn't it? But I would captain Mitrovic. I think even in that single game against Leicester, he can outperform Mason Mount in the double. Yeah, Sterling is a good shout, and that goal was very weird, the one that he scored. He was in the right position, and a lot of his goals throughout his whole career have come like that because his position is exceptional. But as an FPL option, I don't think he's worth the money. Is he good for a one-week punt maybe with a double? Of course he is, and even against Palace in game week 20, but would I want him beyond that? No, but I have to say Sterling is a good shout. Sell Foden to Andreas or sell Saka to Andreas? Foden. I think Foden will begin to start. I'm not sure exactly when that will be. Saka for me is the better option. He's nailed. He's on penalties. The only doubt with him is if he gets one more yellow, he's suspended. But really, I would sell Foden at this point. And remember, just for those that are kind of yellow card risks, like Saka and all of that, once they have played their 19th game, then it will reset and they have to get up to 10 yellow cards to then get a suspension. So be aware of that. Welcome, Omar. Thank you very much. Happy New Year to you as well. Should I start, or who should I start between Andreas or Foden? I would go for Andreas this week, actually. Andreas or Trossard, I would go for Andreas. And should I sell Cancelo or keep him? If you can, I actually see the value in keeping Cancelo. I personally sold him, but the only reason I did that is because I saw no other clear option for me in order to fund the move to Mitrovic. But if you can keep Cancelo, I would recommend it. He's got a double in 20, and I think he'll get back into the City side this week. Hi Dylan, sell Darwin or Martial to bring Mitrovic? Great question. I would personally sell Darwin Nunez. He's obviously got the great position and he's a nuisance for defenders, but his finishing is so erratic. He should have scored against Leicester. He should have scored 2 or 3 against Aston Villa, and he's always going to be like this. He might... It's kind of a case of feast or famine. He might produce a 12 or 13 point return in one week, and then in the next he will just get a 1 or 2 pointer when he really should have done much more. Welcome, John Darren. Good to see you. Who do I bench? Saka, Sterling, Mount? Well, in that case, I would bench Saka. Sterling and Mount have the double game week, of course, but I think Saka is the best of the 3 overall. But because of the double, I think it makes sense. Welcome, DTW. Welcome, Joyce. Good to see you. Welcome, S. Kelly as well. Harry says, afternoon, bold to go without Mitrovic. Feel like I'm tearing my team up for him to go and get yellow card versus Leicester. It's definitely possible, of course. Maybe he'll be a bit more careful because he would miss the derby if he were to get a yellow. Yeah, I would say it's a bit bold to go without Mitrovic, but then I can understand if you don't go with him because the fixtures afterwards aren't that great, and a lot of Mitrovic owners will probably be looking to go to someone like Ivan Toney should he remain unsuspended, should I say. So yeah, I don't think you have to go with Mitrovic. The reason why I did and kind of undid a bit of my team with a -4 hit is because I think he's the best captaincy option this week, but even someone like Rashford could do the job for you if you want a good captaincy option. Welcome, Amir. Good to see you as well. Welcome, Sing 2. So, hey Dylan, thoughts on Cancelo plus Greenwood to Mitrovic and Cucurella, 5.4 million defender -4. I basically did the same thing, also getting Andres Pereira in for Leandro Trossard. Look, I'm not a big fan of Cucurella. I still don't think he's a great option, despite the fact that I got him in. I really just did because he's got a double, and I could see him keeping a clean sheet in Game Week 20 against Crystal Palace, and also it's a way to fund the other moves. So yeah, is it worth a -4? I think so. I think Mitrovic himself pays it off, but Cucurella isn't a great option. Who else would there be around 5.4 or under? Definitely Shaw, Botman, and White. They're the 3 best options in terms of budget defenders right now. Who do I start? Botman, Trippier, Cancelo, and Dunk. Good question. I would probably start Trippier for sure. Maybe Cancelo, and if I had to bench just one, I'd actually go for Dunk over Botman. I don't see Newcastle keeping a clean sheet. They can do it, of course. They've got arguably the best defence in the league up until now. But you've already got Trippier, and I see Arsenal scoring in that game. So I would bench Botman from those four. Darwin to Mitrovic, yeah. I think that's a good move. I would do it. Hey, Dylan, bench Cancelo or White? That's a really good question. I think Cancelo will start. And oddly enough, I think City might have a better chance of a clean sheet. So I would go for Cancelo. But if you have any doubts about Cancelo starting, which to be fair, we probably all should have, he's been benched in the last 2 games, then maybe White's just a safer option. But I would personally go for Cancelo. I would go for Andres Pereira over Almiron because I've already done it myself. You can see it from my team selection. That's the way I think. Andres has got a double. I could see him getting 1 return, so he could easily get a 5 to 8 pointer, and that would be quite nice. Yeah, I mean, bench Joao Cancelo. Look, if I had him, I probably would be benching him, but it's kind of a difficult one, actually. It's a really difficult one. Between him and White, I think it's very close. Bench Cancelo, Trippier or White. Don't bench Trippier. That would be my advice. Even though I just said I think Arsenal will score, Trippier can still get points, and he's just a bonus points machine. So I would definitely start him, and I'd probably bench White from those 3. But if you're backing an Arsenal clean sheet or something like that, then maybe you'll go about things differently. I swapped Foden and Zaha for Andres and Martinelli. Looks good. Actually, if I was buying into Arsenal right now, I'd go for Odegaard over Martinelli, but they're both great options and they offer extremely good value. So the transfers you got in, I think, are really good. Foden might start in the next few weeks, so he could frustrate you, but honestly, the transfers you got in are fine. Double Cucurella plus Thiago Silva. I mean, I've said this before, I'm not a big fan of Chelsea defensively. I don't even think they'll keep a clean sheet in this double. So would I go for a double up? I've gone for it myself with Kepa. I think he's the best to cover Chelsea defensively. Thiago Silva, I'm a bit unsure about, 5.4 million. I'd say slightly injury prone, and I'm just not so sure if he's worth the money, really. So if you don't have a Luke Shaw, a Botman or a White, I would definitely go in that direction instead, personally. But it's not bad, of course. I'm going for a double up myself defensively, and I think it could pay off in Game Week 20, and you could even get 5 points from those 2 defenders in Game Week 19. Nunez to Havertz, right choice? I'm not a big fan of Havertz, but he is probably the best attacking option besides maybe Mason Mount. You could even argue Sterling in that case. And my problem with Havertz is that he's a forward in this game, and I would rather go for Nketiah, possibly even Martial in the long term, but more importantly, Harry Kane, who you might want in Game Week 20. Haaland, of course, is a very obvious choice. Mitrovic, and not to mention Tony, if he gets no suspension, and he could be available tomorrow, or today actually, against Liverpool. Sell Robertson. I would expect him to be back fairly soon. So if he's not available today, he should be back in Game Week 20. So would I sell him? In most cases, I wouldn't. My problem with Liverpool and Robertson in particular is that I don't see too many clean sheets. But with him, he can always get points for attacking returns and bonus points. Yeah, Mitrovic captain, I think that will be the popular choice this week. If there was one particular standout, it probably would be him. And I think it would be even more popular if Mitrovic didn't have that yellow card suspension looming over him. Happy New Year to you as well, Travel. Thank you very much for that. And also to Mr. Iceman and everyone else with the wishes. I might have missed some, so I do apologise for that. Dylan, who do I bench, Saka, Sterling or Mount? Yeah, we covered that question. I mean, as much as I like Saka and I think he's better than the other 2, a double game week is a double game week, and Saka's facing one of the best teams in the country, so I'd probably go for the Chelsea players and bench Saka. Martial to Mitrovic, I probably would. He's facing Bournemouth and I could see him scoring, but Mitrovic I think is the better option long term, despite some turbulent fixtures. And look, the only big kind of concern you would have is if he gets a yellow card. But apart from that, I think Mitrovic is the play there. And he's also still on penalties. Start Trossard or Martinelli, I'd go for Martinelli. I think form's a big thing. Arsenal are in great form themselves. Martinelli is getting returns every single game, it seems like. I'd go for him. Thoughts on Luca Dean? I think I said this in a comment in the last few days. I don't like Aston Villa defensively. They did great against Spurs. I was very surprised to see them keep a clean sheet. Would I go for Luca Dean though? No, I'll be honest. I just wouldn't go for him. The fixtures are okay. You know, there's some good ones in there, but I wouldn't go for Luca Dean personally. Really tough one. I think Martial is more likely to return, but Martinelli is just so much more consistent. You know what? It might sound crazy, but I'd go for Martinelli, despite the fixture. Shaw or Cucurella? I think it's a very simple one. I'd go for Luke Shaw, to be fair. Happy New Year to you as well, Sharian. Thank you very much for the wishes. And yeah, hopefully you have a great time with your family. Should I bench Dummett or Kazawa? Dummett or Kazawa? What kind of question is that? Cancelo will start. Yeah, I think so too. Especially with the points being dropped. I think if City had won again, then maybe he might have been benched in one of the next 3 games once again. But I think Cancelo will become a starter. Maybe at the expense of Lewis, but it could also just be on the left-hand side there for City. Should I do Wilson to Mitrovic and handle the Reece James issue later? I would do that right now, to be fair. Yeah, I'd do Wilson to Mitrovic, and then you can deal with Reece James another time, because if you've already got White, Botman, and also Luke Shaw, then you've already got most of the best defenders, not to mention Trippier, of course, as well. Then when you look at the fifth defender, it becomes really difficult, and that's why there's actually a bit of value of going for a Bueno or a cheap defender like that. So, honestly, I think, yeah, I'd probably do that and save Reece James for maybe next week. Welcome, Leanne. Thank you very much for that. Happy New Year to you as well. I have 1,035 on 926k still. Good luck. Good luck to you as well. I think you can definitely keep on climbing, and I hope you do. And thank you very much for the wishes. I appreciate it. Game week 20 to 21, Nunez to Kane, Andreas Odegaard, and Cancelo to Akanji White. I do like that. Now, Cancelo, I think, will get back into the side, and then ideally you'd want him as well as the players you're bringing in, but you need to fund the move to Kane, and I think that's a perfect way of doing it. Who would I rather go to between Akanji and White? I'd still go for White, despite Akanji having a double in 20, which is a quite difficult double on paper, actually, even for City. So, yeah, I'd go for Kane, and my preference is actually Odegaard, but I can understand if you get Andreas in now for Game Week 19, but from Game Week 20 onwards, the play would be Odegaard. Just be careful, because if you build a team with 5 midfielders and 3 forwards, you're going to have benching headaches. You're going to have 8 attackers, you know, pretty much every single week. You have to bench one of them, and you could bench some points very often. James to who or roll? I'm probably going to say this a lot of times, but literally, White, Botman or Shaw, just depends on your structure. Do you have a United defender already? Would I double up personally on United defensively? Not really, but they have a double very soon, potentially in 20. So it depends on which players you have or don't have. If you've got Trippier already, which I'm guessing you do, then maybe you'd be more inclined to go for a White or Shaw instead of Botman, but any of those three I think is the best one. I'm not a huge fan of Cucurella. I literally only did it because I wanted a way to fund in Mitrovic, who will be my captain. Start Trippier or Cancelo? Trippier all day long. Thoughts on Gakpo? Well, Jurgen Klopp said it himself. He probably won't play against Brentford, but he should be available for Game Week 20. And this is what we said a week ago as well, just kind of logically speaking, really. So yeah, Gakpo could be someone to consider in the future, but right now, just don't go for him. It's a wait and see. Martial or Nunez to Mitrovic? I'd rather get rid of Nunez. He's more expensive, and Martial is a great fixture. I would personally get rid of Nunez. They're both not great finishers, but I'd say Martial is slightly better in that regard. And if they were one-on-one, I'd have more confidence in Martial burying the chance, and I think he will get plenty of chances against Bournemouth. Rashford, of course, is the standout. Robertson, Shaw, Cancelo, Trippier. Which three to start? Trippier has to be a start every day. Luke Shaw, of course, with the fixture. The third one is a tricky one. I don't see Liverpool keeping a clean sheet against Brentford, especially if Tony starts. Obviously, that would be big news. If Tony doesn't start, then suddenly I'd have a bit more confidence. Robertson's an injury doubt anyway. I'd go for Cancelo this week, actually, over Robertson. Captain Mitrovic or Rashford? It's a close one. You can see they're both my captain and vice-captain. I'm going for Mitrovic for the double. Do I start Diop over Trippier, Shaw or Cancelo? I also have Saliba on the bench. Do I start Diop? Over Cancelo, maybe. Not over Trippier or Shaw. Definitely not. Best 4.7 million defender. White or Botman. It's as simple as that for me, I think. Early team news is possible. We'll see later on. I think someone will probably point it out in the chat. If not, I'll find out myself. Keep Martial and Nketiah or transfer one of them out for Mitrovic. I would personally get rid of Martial for Mitrovic, despite the fixture for United, but to be fair, if you keep them, I don't think it's a bad decision, because beyond Game Week 19, you might not want Mitrovic really with the fixtures, which are kind of mixed bag. Start Bueno or White? I'd still go for Ben White. Almiron or Odegaard? This week I'd go for Odegaard, but benching Almiron, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. And I'm doing it myself, and it is what it is. Hi Dylan, who to bench this week? Shaw, Cucurella, Trippier, Cancelo or Martial? I mean, I definitely wouldn't bench Shaw or Trippier. I've said this all along. So from those, I'd bench Cancelo. Have played wildcard this game week. Can you do a quick wildcard team? I don't think it's a great idea. Obviously, you might have a different team situation, but to play the wildcard so early on, you will have no wildcard left for the rest of the season. And when there's more doubles, and we're talking about bigger doubles, in fact, than blanks, you might struggle in those weeks as well to navigate through it. You might need to take a lot of hits. In terms of like the best wildcard team, it would be something like this that you see on screen, really. I mean, what would I change? You know, if I could basically just make unlimited transfers, what changes would I make? Maybe I would bring in De Bruyne for Salah because of the double in 20. I would also perhaps look for Odegaard instead of Martinelli. Anything else that I'm really thinking about? It's kind of a tough one, really. Beyond Game Week 19, I would move Cucurella on potentially, maybe in 20 to Akanji, or later on when another defender option kind of arises, that's when I could jump off him. But it's kind of similar to this. In fact, Kane should have a double in 20 unless things happen in the FA Cup. But yeah, what you see on screen is pretty much an ideal team for me personally. Of course, if I have some time to think about it, then maybe there's going to be a few holes that I can pick out and maybe suggest improvements. But this is kind of close to what I would say as the kind of ideal team for Game Week 19 on a wildcard. Replacement of James, once again, White, Botman, or Shaw. I'm going to try not to cover that question because we've done it quite a lot of times already. Best 4.7 million defender except for White and Botman. That's the thing, though. There's not many options for me. I have looked at it because I've wanted to go for someone around that price and below, and I just can't really find that option. Wan-Bissaka and Malacia are decent right now, but I don't expect them to be nailed on in the long term. But for the time being, they could do a decent job. Maybe a Brighton defender could be decent, such as Lewis Dunk, Estupinian. Apart from that, though, I honestly can't bring myself to recommend too many options. Callum Wilson to Mitrovic and bench Martial, save transfer. Yeah, benching Martial does seem a bit weird, but getting Mitrovic in, I mean, it's a great transfer. And Wilson, I don't trust him. I don't trust him. So yeah, I think it's worth the transfer. If you have to bench Martial, so be it. But maybe find someone else to bench. I'm not so sure. Maybe Cancelo if you can afford it. Then yeah, I would bench him instead. Bought Sterling and captain. Thoughts? I mean, it's something different. I like that. I think Sterling could be great in a double game week like this. Do I trust him beyond it? Do I think he's worth the money? No, I don't. But I think as a 1 week punt, he looks great. And even in 20, you could do well. Pascal Strauchin for Cancelo. I don't trust Leeds defensively. I know they kept a clean sheet against Newcastle. But honestly, I just don't really trust him. I know he's actually right up there in terms of points scored amongst defenders. But yeah, I mean, when you're looking for a budget defender, why not? But not for me. Should I captain Rashford, Salah or Haaland? I personally would go for Rashford this week. And then it would be Haaland and then Salah. But look, let's be real. Salah and Haaland are much more reliable picks than Rashford, who has been in great form. But in terms of who would you back with the captaincy, in most cases, it would be the other two. However, this week, with the fixture in mind, the form, I'd probably go for Rashford. And that's why he's my vice captain over Haaland. Welcome, John. I appreciate it. I'm not a rock star, definitely not, but I appreciate that, John. And a big shout out to Teddy once again. I think I gave one in the last stream too, but it's always a pleasure to see you, John. Cancelo replacement for City, Akanji. I think he's the most nailed on. If you check his minutes since the Wolves game, he has started every single game, and I think that's game week 9 or something. So I would go for Akanji. Best Kulusevski replacement. I think Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka, one of those would be great. I wouldn't triple up on Arsenal, but even a double up is good in the midfield. Apart from those three, Mason Mount, I think, as a like-for-like with a double game week, could also be pretty decent. For the time being, I just look at those players. Obviously, you might not have an Almiron as well, for example, but I go for one of those 4 players, depending on who you have already. Nunez or Kane out for Mitrovic. I don't think it makes sense to get rid of Kane. Yeah, he blanked against Villa. Spurs were toothless, but Harry Kane is still one of the most consistent players in the league. Only 4 blanks this season, and he's got a double in 20. I wouldn't get rid of him. It has to be Darwin Nunez to be sold there. Great question. Top 3 captaincy options. I'd personally say Mitrovic first. Maybe Mason Mount second and Rashford third. That is my kind of ranking. You could arguably put Rashford in second, even over Mason Mount. But yeah, that would be a kind of rough idea of the top 3. To be fair, even someone like Havertz or Sterling, you could even put above someone like Mason Mount. So they're all in the conversation as well. It's a tricky one, I think. But definitely Rashford and Mitrovic for me are right up there, and I'm happy to have both. Start 2 of Gabriel, Akanji, Bueno, and Dalot. I mean, the thing is with Dalot, I don't expect him to start. So it's a tricky one. Probably Gabriel and maybe Bueno, actually. Almiron to Andreas for 1 week or roll? Just roll. Almiron could do well against Arsenal, and beyond Game Week 19, Almiron's better than Andreas Pereira. So I don't think it's worth it. Martial to Mitrovic from -4. From -4, yeah, I still think it's worth it, but Martial does have the fixture, and I could see him getting a goal or 2 against Bournemouth, so it's a risk. It definitely is, but Mitrovic for me is a great captaincy option. I wouldn't captain Martial, so yeah, it's worth a -4, but it's risky. Welcome, Diogo. Hey, Dylan, good luck for this week. Thank you. Good luck to you as well. Haaland or Mitrovic captain? I'd go for Mitrovic, and this is the time to kind of be a bit different. Go away from Haaland, who I still expect to be maybe the most captained option in general. A lot of dead teams who already got Haaland permanent captain. So Yeah, that's what I would do. Welcome, Owa. So the help is who to start. So a lot of defender questions, and I do understand that I've had some dilemmas myself. So who to start between Trippier, Shaw, Cancelo, Bueno, Botman. I'm not sure exactly how many defenders you want me to start. I'm guessing it's 3. So I would go for Trippier, Shaw for sure. The third defender would probably be Cancelo. It's between him and Bueno. The reason why I would start Cancelo over Bueno, and yeah, I would start Bueno over Kanji, is simply because of Cancelo's bonus points potential and attacking potential, and I expect him to get back into the side. But that's a close call. I wouldn't go for a double up in Newcastle defensively this week, but then again, you might have a different idea there. Is it worth the -4 to bring in Mount over Almiron or Saka? This might sound like an unpopular opinion, but I don't think it's worth the -4 because it might pay off this week, but in the long term, you'd rather have Almiron or Saka. I think they're much better options. Bench Martial or Martinelli? I'd probably bench Martial from those two. Who's the best Chelsea defender? It's a close call. I think it's Cucurella. Azpilicueta's a bit cheaper, but he also can come off the bench or have a shorter cameo. You know, there's a few times this season he's had a 17-minute cameo, 45 minutes, and that just isn't, ideal. With Chilwell out right now, I think Cucurella is the standout. Then you could maybe look at someone like Thiago Silva, Koulibaly, just for attacking potential from set pieces, but yeah, there's not really a standout choice. If there was a Reece James or Ben Chilwell, we'd all be over them, but we don't have that. Cucurella hasn't been great from FPL. I thought he'd be much better this season. At least, a few more clean sheets and a few more attacking returns, but he's been pretty poor. He's probably the best of a bad bunch. I think Cancelo will play, but I could be wrong. 0.1 million off Martial to Mitrovic. Should I use 2 free transfers to fund Martial to Mitrovic or downgrade Darwin to free up funds? I would downgrade Darwin, Marco. So Darwin down to Mitrovic I think is fine. I even said this before. I'd rather keep Martial than Darwin Nunez at the time, for the time being. Captain, except Mitrovic, like I said, Rashford is a good consideration. Maybe someone like Havertz or Mount. I think that's where I'd be looking at. And of course, Haaland's always a captaincy option, even in a single game week against Chelsea away. Tuan says, do you not think Darwin will rise? I think he can get some form back. Obviously, he's a decent player. He's got potential, and he's just a really raw talent, I'd say. Of course, he can come good, but he's too expensive, I think, for what he's delivering. He's very frustrating. I know he got an assist for one of the own goals against Leicester, but I just wouldn't go for him right now. I think Harry Kane, you could make that switch. A lot of people will do that in Game Week 20. And also these cheaper strikers like Nketiah, even Martial, you could say, Mitrovic, Tony, they're all much better in my opinion. Maybe not Martial, but the rest definitely are. Start Saka or Martinelli? Probably Saka because he's on penalties, but it's a really close call. Mount or Odegaard for this week? I mean, I think Odegaard is a far better option, but Mount for the double. It has to be him. And Odegaard's facing Newcastle, who I would expect to be very resolute defensively, and I think Arsenal could struggle there. Should I transfer Cancelo out and bring in Shaw? I like that move, but Cancelo does have a double in 20, and I expect him to get back into the team. So it's going to be a bit of a tricky one there, AJ. I think it's worth it. I think Shaw offers far better value. He's obviously nailed, and United still have some good fixtures. They could double in 20, so I think it's worth doing that transfer, but you might want Cancelo back. Be aware of that. Who to bench, Walker, Trippier, or Dunk? Good question. I would bench Walker from those 3. 2 free transfers, Foden or Somerville to Andreas or Mount and roll. Use both free transfers. I would probably use both free transfers. Somerville to Andreas, if I had to pick one, I think that's the better move. I think he's a better bench option in general. He's obviously got the double this week, but I'd do both if you can. I'm not a big fan of Foden, but for for 1 week for free, I think it's worth that punt. Yeah, Anthony, we answered that question already. Like I said, I'd go for Mount. Hey, Dylan, I'm getting some info that Trippier might miss the Arsenal game because of the yellow cards. Is it true? No, that is not true. There's no chance he's suspended. I'm not sure how many yellows he's got. I think he's got 4. Let me actually check this. Yeah, he's on 4 yellows. If he gets a yellow against Arsenal, he will miss the next game in Game Week 20, but there's no chance he misses the Arsenal game. And the same goes for the likes of Saka. He's a suspension risk. Harry Kane. You've also got a few others like Mitrovic, of course, we've talked about many times in these videos. Darwin to Havertz and bench KDB. I wouldn't bench KDB, so my answer would actually be no. I think Darwin to Havertz is a great transfer for this week, and I think Havertz could actually be the best captaincy option, but benching KDB, no chance. Start Adams or KDB? Kevin De Bruyne all day long. Would you do Greenwood to Mitrovic and KDB to Mount maybe? Yeah, I like Greenwood to Mitrovic. Obviously, to fund that, you need to do KDB to Mount. It's a tough one, but I'd say no, because Kevin De Bruyne is arguably one of the best captaincy options in Game Week 20. And I think he's been playing really well. Very unlucky not to get returned. So, unfortunately, I'd say no. As a duo, Mitrovic and Mount is better, but to sacrifice KDB when he's got a double in 20, I'm just not so sure about that. What do you think about Mings in defence? Like I said to someone earlier about Dean, I don't trust Villa defensively. I don't think Mings is particularly a great defender. I just wouldn't go for him. Shaw or Cucurella, I think it's very simple. Luke Shaw is a far better option. Would you swap Robertson to Trent for free? With the injury doubt in mind, potentially, yeah. But it's kind of a tricky one because if you've got a decent bench, you could just bench Robertson this week or have him come off automatically with subs. And he should be available in Game Week 20 if he misses out today. So I'd probably say hold if you can. Could do Kulusevski to Mount captain, but not keen on Chelsea, and hopefully Kulusevski's fit for the double game week. Well, I hope he's not fit for the double game week because obviously they're facing Arsenal. But yeah, I think Mount captain is a good transfer. And honestly, with the way Spurs are playing, it's not really going to be a huge miss, you would say. I think Spurs will get better, and Kulusevski and Harry Kane in particular, I think, will fire, especially in the double game week. But I think it's worth the transfer, and you're looking to captain Mount anyway. I want to get Mitrovic in. Who should I get rid of? I'd get rid of Darwin Núñez from those two. And that also answers Sean's question. We've kind of covered that already. Almiron or KDB for the best 11? Kevin De Bruyne, but I wouldn't want to bench either of them. I'm benching Almiron, and I'm very uneasy about it. Yeah, Anthony, we've literally answered that question. I even highlighted it. Andreas or Martial? I'd go for Andreas this week. Close call, though. Thank you, Ziofan. Good luck to you as well. Darwin to Mitrovic for free? Yes, I would do that. Almiron or Nketiah? I'd go for Nketiah this week, but it's a really close call. I'm backing Arsenal a little bit in that game. I think it'll be tough, but I think they'll just about get over the line. It could even be a draw. I mean, it's a really tough game to call, but I favour Arsenal a little bit more, and that's why I'd go for Nketiah. Almiron, though, great option. -4 Pope to Kepa. It's a good consideration. I don't think it's a bad transfer, but would I do it? Probably not. I think Newcastle are much better defensively than Chelsea, and in the long term, I think Pope will score more goals. Obviously, Kepa's cheaper, and what I like about him is his potential besides clean sheets, but is it worth a -4? Even with the double, I would say no. Start Almiron or Cucurella? I mean, normally I'd say Almiron all day long, but with the double in mind, I'd probably say Cucurella. Now, if I could bench Cucurella myself for Almiron, I would consider it. So it's a good question you ask, but I think I'd go for the doubler there. Need to bench 2, Burn, Parod, Patterson, White. Who would I bench? That's a good question. I would bench Burn, and I would probably bench... It's a close call. Probably Parod because Southampton are poor defensively. So yeah, those are the two I'd bench. Martial, Almiron. Probably Martial this week. Start Cancelo or White? I'd probably start Cancelo. Koulibaly or Cucurella? Cucurella for me. James to Cucurella, I have 2 transfers. I've said this before, I got Cucurella myself. I don't think he's great, but look, if you need to do that to fund another move, so be it. If you don't have any cover defensively, then yeah, just do the transfer, don't overcomplicate it. But for me, Luke Shaw, White and Botman are all far better than Cucurella, and if I didn't have them, they would have come in instead of Cucurella for me. Who to take out Zaha for, Mount or Havertz? Well, Havertz is a forward in this game, so I'd go for Mason Mount. Yeah, Ahmed, we answered that question already. Try not to spam the chat, otherwise it won't be read out at all. Mount or Rashford? I would go for... You know what? I'd probably still go for Rashford, actually. It's a close call. Obviously, Mount has a double game week, but Rashford is my preference for sure. Mitrovic or Rashford captain? You can kind of see on screen. I've got Mitrovic captain and Rashford vice. I think that's the way it goes. It's a really close call, though. Is Robertson a hold or transfer out? I'd probably hold Robertson and sell Wilson. Play free from Trippier, Cancelo, White, Bueno and Thiago Silva. Well, I'd obviously play Thiago Silva for the double. Definitely play Trippier. And after that, it's probably Cancelo for me. Start Castagna versus Fulham or Trippier? Still Trippier for me. Happy New Year to you as well, that air. Thank you very much. Foden out. Should I bring in Rashford or Mount? Honestly, I'd go for Rashford. Yeah, I don't think that's a big deal though. I wouldn't... Look, I know I've got 4 double game week players now, but I'll be honest, if I didn't have 1 or 2 of them, I wouldn't be fast. I think Kepa, Mitrovic are the best options in general. Andreas is obviously cost effective. He's decent as well. You've already got 2 of the best options. I wouldn't be that worried about it. I'd go for Rashford over Mount for sure. Play Almiron or Foden, I'd go for Almiron out of those two. Start two for this week and next week, Foden, Mount and Saka. Well, it's kind of difficult to say next week because that is kind of in 1 or 2 weeks' time. A lot could change then. We've got the FA Cup as well in between. For this week, I would go for Mount and Saka and bench Foden. Water Kepa or Adams to Havertz? Probably Adams to Havertz. I think that has the highest ceiling. But I would try to sort out the goalkeeper situation. If you've only got Ward as your main goalkeeper, then I would be a bit unsure about that. Gakpo or Salah, says Umar. Salah. I mean, we have to see how Gakpo acclimatizes to Liverpool first, but yeah, Salah. Bench KDB or Martinelli? I wouldn't want to bench either of them. I'd probably still start KDB, but that's really based on reputation and also performances. I think KDB has a haul in him, and it could even be against Chelsea. Would you start Saka or Almiron this game week? I'd start Saka. Kane to Mitrovic? No. No, because you'd want Kane in game week 20 potentially. They're both yellow card suspension risks. No, I wouldn't do that. Mitrovic in place of Martial or Kane? In place of Martial. I'd keep Harry Kane. Start Almiron or Bailey? Almiron. Should I bring in Shaw even if I have to bench him against City and Arsenal? I still think it's worth it. He could have a double in 20, by the way. So, yeah, he has City. But if he gets that Leeds fixture in there as well, then you'd start him. And then you'd only bench him against Arsenal, really. So I don't think that's a big deal. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. And obviously, I wish you a happy new year. If you haven't already, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. It really helps out the channel. We've got some new goals for the year. Let's try to get this stream to over 100 likes first and then push on beyond that to 200 and more. I definitely think we can do that. And if I've answered your question already or been helpful, then that would be very much appreciated in return. Thank you for the super chat. Let me just get you up right here. Ed in Cobb. Who returns more, Trippier or Dean? I'd say Trippier. Look, Trippier's facing Arsenal, and you might not expect a clean sheet, and to be fair, I don't either. But what I like about Trippier is the assists, the bonus points potential. I mean, look how many times he's blanked this season. I think it's only 3 times. He's been so consistent, and he's probably the best FPL option besides Haaland, so I'd probably go for Trippier still, even over Luka Dean. Also, Willian over Andreas as a punt. It's not a bad consideration. Willian has been decent, but I'd still go for Andreas. I think he's a bit cheaper. And you've also got Deco Doveri to consider, but for me, Andres Pereira is the standout midfielder. It's not a bad punt, though. Definitely not. Start Dalot, Almiron, or White. From those three, I'd probably start Almiron from those three. Currently starting Martinelli, Cancelo, Castagna, Trippier, Foden, and Dalot. The thing is with Dalot, I just don't expect him to get back into the team just yet. Maybe in game week 20. That's when I'm kind of earmarking or bookmarking for him to get back in. Start 1, White, Bueno, Dunk. Tough one. I would probably go for Ben White. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Yeah, just thank you for the support. Is it worth using both my transfers to get Mitrovic in? Yes, I think it is. It also depends what else you're doing, but, you know, on paper it does look good. Yeah, my transfers are confirmed. What you see on my team is already done. James and Trossard to Cucurella and Rodrigo. Yeah, looks fine to me. I mean, Rodrigo... He's probably the best option from Leeds, that's for sure. I'm just still a bit unsure about him. And Leeds, they worry me a little bit. I think they're a very inconsistent team, but Rodrigo's fine. He's not a bad choice. However, if you don't have Rashford or Odegaard or Martinelli, I'd definitely go to one of those, even if it means a double up in Arsenal. Captain Sterling, if you have him, I would definitely consider it. Like I said, apart from Mason Mount, I think the likes of Sterling and Havertz could actually outscore him. Havertz or Kane? Well, this week Havertz, long term is Harry Kane all day long. Would I get rid of Kane for Havertz? No chance. I've only got 2 double game Chelsea players. Would you sell Darwin for Mitrovic and roll? I would do Darwin to Mitrovic personally. It can backfire, of course. I'm a bit happy that he did miss the penalty. That also put off people from getting Mitrovic in for this week. I still think he's a considerably better option than Darwin Nunez, even if Liverpool have better fixtures. Kane or Tony? Harry Kane. He's got the double in 20. Tony should be available today. If he isn't, obviously he's still got that kind of hearing, and a lot could change by next week. Do you think Firmino will start? I think Nunez will. I think Firmino will be in the squad, though. Mitrovic in for Kane or Darwin? Darwin. Thoughts on Andreas as a differential captain over Mitrovic? It's not a bad consideration, and actually in terms of predicted points, I think he's third. He's definitely right up there, but I would go for Mitrovic. He's on penalty still, even though Andreas is arguably a better penalty taker, and I think Mitrovic will... I don't know, just looking at the fixtures, Leicester and Chelsea, I could see Mitrovic getting the returns there. Of course, You never know in football, and Andreas could be the one. If you've got a good feeling about him over Mitrovic, go for it. But don't just do it for the sake of being different, because whenever I've done that, it hasn't paid off. Captaining Haaland or Rashford? Well, I would probably go for Rashford this week. I do want to go a bit different, even though you would argue Mitrovic is the kind of popular captain on Twitter and YouTube. But yeah, Rashford for me over Haaland. Mitrovic in for Nunez. Yep, that looks fine to me. Nunez, look, he has the potential to return, of course, and he could maybe... It could backfire for 1 week, but in the long term, I think that move will pay off. Hi, Dylan. Will you captain Mount over Mitrovic if you have Mount? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't, to be honest. It's completely understandable why you're concerned about the yellow card for Mitrovic, but I still think he's better than Mason Mount, to be fair, even in one game. Do you think Cancelo will play? Yes, I do. Wilson or Tony, who to bench? I'd actually rather bench Wilson, oddly enough. Why don't you have Mount? Because I just don't really see which midfield I'd get rid of. I couldn't do Trossard to Mason Mount without... I could have done Cancelo to Cucurella as well, and that would have given me the funds, but I actually would rather have Mitrovic. I think he's a better captaincy option, and he's a better option than Mason Mount in general. And would I get rid of Martinelli, Rashford, Almiron or Salah for Mason Mount? No, I wouldn't. So I just don't see a need to go for him. I don't think he's a great FPL option. Kane or Havertz? Kane. I'm just going to say that now. Obviously for this week, it's Havertz, but... Harry Kane is the easy choice. Odegaard or Martinelli? Right now it's Odegaard, but they're both great. Why not go for both, I'd say. Start one, White, Botman or Cancelo? I'd go for Cancelo. Mount over Andreas? Yes, but if you have Andreas, you don't want to bench him. Thoughts on Luka Dean? Like I said before, I don't trust Villa defensively, so I'm not considering it too much. They kept the clean sheet the other day. Do I expect them to in the next few games? Not really. And Unai Emery teams are known for being defensively solid, so not for me. Good New Year, Happy New Year to you as well, Demantis. Thank you very much. Start free. Andreas, Rashford, Martial, Martinelli. Rashford shouldn't be in the conversation. He has to start with that fiction form. I'd go for Andreas, and the last one would be Martinelli. Most would point you towards Martial over Martinelli, and that's understandable. If you want to play it by the fixture, that's the way to go. But I think Martinelli, in the form he's in, and the way Arsenal are playing, I'd rather go for him over Martial. But it obviously could backfire. KDB bench for Almiron and White. I wouldn't bench KDB. I'd start him over White. Will Leeds have a double game week? We won't know until before game week 20. So within the next week or so, we should have clarification. They could have a double, and that obviously would include Man United, and Man United would have a double as well. But so far, we don't know anything. Mount or Foden? Mason Mount for the time being. When or if Foden becomes a nailed-on player again, he's obviously the better choice. But until then, Mason Mount. Cucurella, Trippier, White, Gabriel, Cancelo, bench one. I'd bench Gabriel. It's between him and White. It's kind of, it can go one or two ways. With White, he can be subbed off early, as we saw against Brighton. That could backfire, but it could also play in your favour. He could be subbed off just before Arsenal concede and get the clean sheet points. So that's a tough one, but I'd definitely bench an Arsenal defender there. Bench two, Almiron, Cancelo, Saliba and Nunez. I'd bench Saliba, and I would probably bench probably Cancelo. I'd start Nunez and Almiron. Welcome, Anthony. Hello, Dylan. Almiron, Greenwood, Cancelo to Andreas, Mitrovic, Cucurella. -4 or Mount, Greenwood to Mitrovic, Andreas. It's a tough call. Yeah, it's a good thing actually. So, wow. The thing is, getting rid of Mount this week doesn't seem right to me. Even though I'm not a big fan of him, that doesn't sit right. However, in terms of the players you're bringing in, I think Mitrovic Andreas is the best choice, rather than getting rid of Cancelo for Cucurella for a -4. So I'd go for the 2 free transfers, actually. You'd want Cancelo back in 20, I believe. Then again, you'd probably want Almiron back as well. Well, in this case, Mason Mount. It's a close call. I'd probably say Mount and Greenwood out for Mitrovic and Andreas. It's a close call, though. Martinelli or Almiron, who to bench? I'd bench Almiron from those two. Who should I bench from Saka, Martinelli or Darwin? That's a close call. I'd probably bench Darwin from those three. Start Patterson or Botman. I don't really trust Everton defensively, so I think I'd still go for Patterson. Getting Mitrovic for Martial for a -4 hit. Yep, I think it's worth it. Obviously, Martial could make that, it could backfire, of course. So there's no doubt about it, but I'd go for it. I think Mitrovic is the better option long term. Players to target in Game Week 20, Cancelo, Kevin De Bruyne, Erling Haaland, of course, we will have him. There's no point mentioning him. If United have a double, then Luke Shaw, Rashford, maybe someone like Martial, or even De Gea in goal. I think those are the players to really target. But once again, it's kind of difficult for me to say because we have no confirmation of the doubles for United or Leeds. Top 3 James replacements. I'd say White, Botman, Luke Shaw. Looking at long term, probably in that order. They're both, well, all 3 of them are great. Bench Odegaard or Rashford. I'd bench Odegaard this week. Start White or Trippier. You can see it on my screen, really. You've got White second on the bench, Trippier starting. I think that speaks for itself. 2 free transfers, Darwin, Foden, James out, in Mitrovic. Wait, I just lost your question. Martinelli, Shaw from -4. Yeah, that looks great to me. Honestly, I think those are great transfers. You could also consider Odegaard instead of Martinelli as well for kind of a lower-owned player and also a more informed player. But yeah, that looks great. Best 4.9 million defender. Once again, it's between those 3 that I mentioned. At the moment, it's Luke Shaw. Long term, I'd say it's White or Botman. Do you think Chelsea can keep a clean sheet against Palace? Oh yeah, I actually think they will. The way I see it going, I don't see Chelsea keeping a clean sheet against City or Fulham, but I think they will against Palace. They typically do well against them. Some news for the Fulham match. Ref for the game is making his Prem debut and averages 4 to 5 yellow cards a game. Also, someone's done the math and Mitrovic's chance for a yellow card is 15 to 20%. Well, that's up to Mitrovic to be careful, really. You know, it's obviously a risk when you get a yellow card suspension, kind of player in, but it is what it is. I still think it's worth the risk. What should I do with Kulusevski? I'd probably sell, to be honest. And I even said this last week, I'd keep him for the Villa game, then sell. It kind of backfired for some people, but Captain Darwin versus Brentford, I think it will be a high-scoring game potentially, and Darwin could get chances, but I can't bring myself to captain him. Even someone like Rashford, I have more faith in him and his finishing ability than Darwin Núñez right now. I just can't bring myself to do that with all the chances he's missing. Of course, there will be one game where it all falls together, like it did in Game Week 16, and I brought him in for that. But as a captaincy option, I think that's a step too far for me. For you, look, if you're having a good feeling about him today, go for it, but I just can't bring myself to. Darwin to Havertz and bench KDB? No. Like I said, I just wouldn't bench KDB. Our rank is similar. What is a realistic target? I mean, 10k is possible, but it's obviously going to be really unlikely by this point. Yeah, 50k, that's obviously a bit more doable. Honestly, I'm just going with it. I was 1.1 million 2 weeks ago. I'm now 495k. I don't think I'm that far off from certain ranks, like 100k. So there's a long way to go. There's so many games yet to be played. I'm not really thinking about rank right now. Start Kulusevski or Zaha? I would start Kulusevski, I think. Is Robertson fit to start? I don't know that. I honestly don't know. Bench Almiron or Shaw? I would bench Almiron. Sell Salah for Sterling? No, I just wouldn't do that. I'd rather sell Salah to Kevin De Bruyne in 20, but I wouldn't do that. Who should I captain between Mitrovic and Mount? Completely up to you, Philip, but I'm going for Mitrovic, and that would be my preference. If I had both, I'd still captain Mitrovic. Ream or Cucurella? Probably Cucurella. Is selling Martial versus a poor Bournemouth a good idea? Not really. I'm just really saying it for people who want to get rid of him for Mitrovic, who you then captain. I think that makes sense, and I think Mitrovic is a better option long term. But really, you say it right. When people have asked me who should I sell, Darwin or Martial, I said sell Darwin and keep Martial. I think he's got the potential for a return or two here, and I'll be honest, I don't like Martial long term, but for the time being, next 2 or 3 game weeks, I would probably keep him in most cases. Walker will play. Not sure about that. I think Cancelo will, and maybe even Foden. I just can't tell with Walker, though. Diogo Dalot news. Well, he should be in the squad for the next game. Is he going to start? That's another story in itself. I can't tell you that. Would I bring him in? No. I'd only bring him in once we know he's starting and he's first choice once again. But Wan-Bissaka has been playing well in the last few games, and even Malacia. So it's going to be tricky, actually, to, for him to get back into the side. I think he will eventually, but it's a matter of timing. Captain Rashford, Haaland or Andreas Pereira. I'd probably captain Rashford from those 3. Andres Pereira might be the kind of sensible pick, but I'd probably go for Rashford. Hey, Botman or Almiron? I think Almiron speaks for himself. He's the one. Also, Andres is captain. Not bad. I mean, when I'm looking at my own team, how would I rank it? I think Andres will be maybe 6th in terms of my captaincy ranking. So, look, he could definitely do the business. He's a great option. But when I'm looking at this, I prefer Rashford, Mitrovic, Erling Haaland, probably even Harry Kane, arguably, although the way Spurs are playing, that's kind of a difficult thing to say. Sell Martial for Mitrovic. Like I said, it's not ideal, but it's worth it in the end. It could backfire this week, but in the long term, I think it's a good transfer. So, look, if you have someone else like Nunez, I'd rather sell him. But otherwise, yeah, I'd do it. Who would you play, Pope or Ward? I would play a Ward. Yeah, from those two, it'd be Ward. Playing Nketiah or Kulusevski, I'd play Nketiah. Welcome, Pierre. Bench Odegaard, Almiron, Martinelli, or Andreas. The way I'd go about it is maybe back one team. So maybe bench Almiron and go for the Arsenal attackers. Now, as an FPL option, Almiron obviously has been the best so far this season of the four you've mentioned. But if you back Arsenal like I do in this game, then I'd probably go for the Arsenal midfielders and bench Almiron. Start free, White, Trippier, Walker, Shaw. I just bench Walker basically because I don't know if he's going to start. Best Walker replacement, I'd say Akanji as a like-for-like, but apart from him, you know my answer already. Luke Shaw, Botman, White, whoever you don't have already. Going with Rashford captain, hope it pays off. I like that. And if I didn't have Mitrovic, I think I'd be going for him. It'd be between him and Haaland for the captaincy for me. Foden out for Saka from -4. Obviously, Foden could have a double in 20. Well, no, he does have the double in 20, should I say. He could even feature in both games, but I think it's worth the -4. Dean, Mings, or Young? Probably Luca Dean, but once again, I just don't trust Villa defensively. If they show a bit of consistency, then of course I'd be interested, but you know, there's not many standout defender options besides the three that I constantly name. Dylan, is Mitrovic a must-own this week? I wouldn't say he's a must-own, but he is the best captaincy option for me. And look, I think you can get away with it. Going for Andres Pereira, captaining Rashford or Haaland, I think you can be fine. But he is the best double gimmick option for me if he can, you know, not get that 5th yellow. Bench Almiron or Andreas? I'd bench Almiron. Replacement for Cancelo? You kind of already know my answer. I'm going to try not to go into these questions anymore, but Shaw, White, Botman. I always say those three. Trippier, of course, is the standout. You have to have him. Apart from those four, it gets a bit trickier. You know, that's why you can go for a double gimmick player like Cucurella. If you need the funds to, you know, do another move like Mitrovic, then you could do Cancelo to Akanji for Gameweek 20. But yeah, really it's just those 3 or 4 defenders that I always name. Start Trippier or Estupinian? Trippier. I just wouldn't bench Trippier at any point, you know, this season for the time being. Any news on Tony? He has a chance of starting today, but I can't tell you if he's going to start or not. But the injury isn't that serious. It's a muscular problem. Yeah, I mean, that's not too surprising, though. And there's no real need to kind of risk Robertson. Tsimikas is a really good understudy. So, yeah, for those that have Robertson, I'd probably keep him for, you know, Gameweek 20. But if you need the funds, then, you know, it does make sense to downgrade him. Replace Cancelo for a -4? No, I wouldn't do that. It depends, really. So the only chance I would do that, because I've done that myself, is to fund another move like Greenwood to Mitrovic. But apart from that, don't replace Cancelo for a -4 hit. You know, if you don't need to, just keep Cancelo. I think he's still a good option once he reclaims his spot. Captain Salah or Mitrovic? Mitrovic for me. Nketiah to Mitrovic or roll? It's a good question. I'd probably do the transfer, but I do like Nketiah as well, and he's a mega differential. Darwin to Mitrovic plus roll, or Kulusevski to Mount plus roll, or Martial Kulusevski to Mitrovic Mount? I'd probably do the first one, so Darwin to Mitrovic and roll the other transfer. Tsimikas or White? Still White for me. I mean, for this week specifically, that is a bit tough, but I'd still probably go for White. Thank you, Aaron, for the super chat. Cancelo for Botman and Greenwood to Mitrovic for a -4. Yes, if you need to do Cancelo to Botman to fund the other move, I would do it. Having said that, Botman you probably won't want to start this week. And there's a few other tricky fixtures for Newcastle. And as for Cancelo, I think he'll start here in 19, and he could be a really good option in the double in 20. Triple captain Haaland for Gameweek 20. I think City will have other doubles, and probably more favourable ones at that. So yeah, of course, I'm considering it. But would I definitely do it? I wouldn't say so. Also on Shaw captain, I mean, the way he's playing right now, bonus points, clean sheets, it's possible. I could see United winning 2 or 3-0. I think Shaw could get a bonus point or 2. Would I captain him, though, over Mitrovic and all these other options? No, I wouldn't. Captain Salah or Haaland, I mean, you can just refer to my team for a lot of these questions, you know, in terms of should I start Almiron or White? You know, you can kind of see the way I've ordered things. So in terms of captaincy, that is obviously a bit different. I don't have Haaland vice-captain, but he is ahead of Salah for me in terms of the captaincy options. But yeah, for a lot of these questions, I think you can refer to the team you see on screen, and you can, you know, get the information yourself there. Rashford captain is tempting. Yes, I do admit, and like I said, he probably would be my captain if it wasn't for Mitrovic. And yeah, Thank you, Marco. Sorry, but if you spam that much, you're going to be banned from the channel. So, yeah, bye-bye. What transfer did you make? So I made 3 transfers. Let me just get the question off screen. So I got rid of Cancelo for Cucurella, I have to say very reluctantly. And I also did Trossard to Andres Pereira, and that gave me the funds to then upgrade Greenwood to Mitrovic, who I've now captained. So that's the way I've done it. Thank you, Superstar. So that is the Liverpool lineup, apparently. Alisson, Trent, Konate, Van Dijk, Tsimikas, Thiago, Fabinho, Elliott, Salah, Nunez, Chamberlain. So, yeah, not many surprises there, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, it's just really a case of, was Robertson going to start or not? It's Tsimikas. That makes sense. Terrible run, 50k to 600k in 7 weeks. Thinking of something different like Andreas, Rashford captain, as I'm worried about Mitrovic yellow card. In that case, I probably would go for Rashford, but Andreas is not a bad choice either. And look, you know, you went down that much in 7 weeks, you could easily regain that, but sometimes it's just a matter of luck, really, and having the roll of the dice in your favour. KDB or Martinelli? I'd probably go for KDB, but benching either of them would be very, very painful. Captain Trossard, really? I just can't bring myself to do that. You know, from what I've seen in the last 2 games, Trossard has been very poor. Against Southampton, he was Brighton's worst player. Against Arsenal, he did absolutely nothing. He ghosted. So, look, obviously, he's not going to continue to blank. I think he will get returns eventually. But to captain him against Everton, I'm just not so sure. I'd probably rather go for Kane, but even then, I don't know. I'd rather go for Salah or Haaland as captain, and Haaland would be first. Yeah, 1 second. Just dealing with any spammers. Thank you, Marco. I appreciate it as well. Once again, put your question once, I'll answer it. If you put it multiple times, you have a risk of being banned. Dylan, you've taken a hit today with 3 transfers? Yes, I have. Like I said, I didn't want to get rid of Cancelo for Cucurella, but I needed to downgrade him to fund the move to Mitrovic, who I really wanted, and that's what I ended up doing. I might bring Cancelo back in and do some other transfers ahead of Game Week 20. Which to start between White, Bueno, Trippier, Robertson? I'd start Trippier, and I'd probably start... Probably Ben White, yeah. And Robertson, it looks like he's not starting anyway, Sudindra. I'm feeling a Dennis King last season. Oh yeah, it could happen. Of course it could. But I think Mitrovic is a much better option regardless, even if he does get suspended. Thank you, Taylor, as well. I appreciate it. And thank you, Irish BVB. Happy New Year to you as well. Any help on who to bench between Martinelli or Odegaard? I mean, literally, it's a coin toss. It really is. Odegaard is in better form. So, and I think Newcastle will sit back deeper, and I don't think Martinelli will get that much space. But then again, I said this about, I think, a few other games, and, you know, it's kind of gone the opposite way of what I expected. So I would go for Odegaard over Martinelli, but at the same time, it's going to be really tricky, and it can go either way. Tempted by Dean for James. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of love for Aston Villa defenders, and that's fine, but I've been burned by Dean so many times, and I just don't trust Villa defensively that... I don't know, I just can't bring myself to recommend him, but it's not a bad shout. And with the lack of options besides the Arsenal, United and Newcastle players, that could be the play. I'd probably wait and buy someone else, but it's not a bad shout. Play Patterson or Botman? Probably Patterson, like I said earlier. Just curious, what's your rationale for captaining Mitrovic despite him possibly missing out the second game? Because in my opinion, I think he won't get suspended for the Chelsea game. I think he'll be a bit more careful, and he will be available for the London derby. And I also think in that game alone against Leicester, I think he can outscore most players this week. So that's why I'm captaining him. And I also think, you know, he's on penalties, of course. He's missed 2 out of 2. But I think he's just got so many avenues for points. And he is the talisman for Fulham, who are one of the best teams in the league this season, especially offensively. No, Superstar. No, I wouldn't do that. I think Robertson will be available in 20. It's not worth a -4 because I just don't see a clean sheet for Liverpool, actually, especially if Tony starts. I would go for Trippier. Geotip. Start Martinelli or Andreas. I would go for probably Andreas. And that also answers Ethan's question. Once again, Kai, they're going to spam the chat. They're just going to be banned. Mount, Andreas or Odegaard? Oh, this week, Mount. Long term, it's definitely Odegaard. Don't look to bench Andreas and Odegaard, though, this week. I mean, that would be quite mad. But yeah, Mount this week is the best of the 3. Saka for Rashford -4? No, I wouldn't do that. Rashford captain? Why not? I think he's the best single game week captain this week. Should I do Wilson to Mitrovic? Yes, I would, Manish. I would. Yeah, Wilson does have better fixtures, but you also have other strikers to go to, and I still think Mitrovic is a better option. Will Wilson be available and stay fit amongst, you know, all those good games? I'm not so sure. Captain Haaland or Andreas? I would go for Haaland over Andreas. Short in for White for a -4? No. Thanks Sarish as well, once again. Yeah, complete coin toss. Have Odegaard in anyway, so we're on the same wavelength. I mean, the form Odegaard is in, that's 3 double-digit returns in 4 games. I think you have to go for him right now. Captain Mount or Andreas? I would go for Mount. KDB or Andreas Pereira? Probably Pereira, but honestly, benching KDB, just don't do it. Honestly, don't do that to yourself. Dylan, I'm going Leno captain. Tell me everything's going to be okay. I can't. I don't think it will be okay. Captaining a Fulham goalkeeper, that is bonkers. Look, if it goes well, then all credit to you, but I just don't see it happening. Should I transfer Cancelo to Trent on a free transfer? No. I would rather have Cancelo. Hi, James to Shaw or Akanji? Sure. How likely is United's double game week? According to Ben Krellin, it's over 50% chance. We won't know until, well, before the Game Week 20 deadline, but we won't find out anytime soon, like not by tomorrow or something like that. It would be a bit later in the week. Hey Dylan, Andreas or Cucurella already have Mount, Kepa, Mitrovic? I'd rather have Andreas Pereira. So yeah, that would be my pick. Hi Dylan, James to Botman and Solanke to Mitrovic, 2 free transfers. Looks good to me. I would do it. Mitrovic for Martial -4. It is really tricky. I would probably do it, but it's a really risky pick, especially with the yellow card looming over him. And Martial's facing Bournemouth, by the way, and he could have a double in 20. A lot of spammers today for some reason. I honestly don't know why. Like I said, any spammers, your question won't be read out. Try to be patient. Is Mitrovic a good long-term option? I still think so, despite the fixtures, but you could also move on to an Nketiah. You could also move on to Tony if he's not suspended. And there's still a few other options. Harry Kane as well, for example. But that would obviously require another move as well. But yeah, I still think he's a good option. He's better than most, including Havertz and a few other options that will be very popular this week. Best James replacement, Ben White, Botman, sure. Any one of those 3, depending on who you have already or don't have. Mount or Mitrovic captain, I'd go for Mitrovic. I think I might put a pin comment just to answer that question as well. Start White or Almiron? Almiron. Was thinking to do Foden to Mount, but now I'm thinking to keep him and roll. Yeah, I mean, that could be the play as well. And Foden, if he starts, I think has a great chance of hauling against Chelsea, I'll be honest. Let's see what else. Have Rashford, Saka, Andreas, Almiron and Mount. Who to bench? Well, from those, it'd probably be Almiron, unfortunately. Will Cancelo and Dalot start this week? My prediction is Cancelo will start and Dalot won't. Let's see how it goes. I could be wrong about both. Gakpo to start? I don't think so. And we actually got a lineup earlier, which Superstar put out in the chat. I'm not sure by who, but I'm guessing it's a reliable source. And Gakpo's not starting. And Klopp even said it in this press conference. It's very likely he won't start or be available for this game. But against Wolves in Game Week 20, that's where he should be available. Replace Kane? No. Start Trippier or White? Trippier. Start Nunez or Almiron? I would go for Almiron. White, Martinelli, Castagna, Cancelo, choose 2. I would go for Martinelli and Cancelo. Kane or Salah long term? Harry Kane. Darwin or Martial for Mitrovic? I would rather get rid of Darwin and keep Martial. Cancelo out. If you can afford it, I would keep Cancelo. I got rid of him only to fund the Mitrovic move. Otherwise, he'd be in my team still, and he'd probably be benched. Happy New Year to you as well, Sonny. Thank you very much. Foden or Almiron, who to start? Probably Almiron. But if Foden does start, I have to say he's got a great chance, like I said. Who to transfer James out for? We've said this quite a lot of times. White, Botman, Shaw is my top 3. Trippier is obviously one that I would expect you to have anyway. Chelsea defender or Luke Shaw? Luke Shaw. Welcome, Ayub. I'm at 600k rank. I have Mount. Should I captain him over Haaland, KDB, and Rashford? Yeah, why not? I think Rashford could be a better option in terms of captaincy this week, but yeah, I think it's good. It's a double gaming player. I think Mason Mount will be slightly more of a low-key pick compared to Mitrovic and Haaland this week, but he'd probably still be 3rd or 4th, and that could be a great way to differentiate yourself. If you're back in Chelsea for the double, then Mason Mount is one of the best options they have. I wouldn't captain a defender, that's for sure. So yeah, it's not too bad. What would I do? I'd probably captain Rashford. Martial to Mitrovic or White to Shaw? Martial to Mitrovic is better for me. No, the double is not confirmed. Like I said, there's a chance of it happening, but it's not set in stone. Bench Cancelo? Yeah, it depends on your team though. Your captain choice if your team didn't have Mitrovic? Rashford. He's my vice captain. He'd be my captain for sure, I think. It's between him and Haaland, and I'd probably lean towards Rashford. I've got 2 free transfers. Would you say I should go for Mitrovic for Nunez and then Mount to Trossard, or keep Nunez and then go Mitrovic to Greenwood? Yeah, Mitrovic in for Nunez and Mount in for Trossard is the way to go, I think. Cancelo or Kulusevski, who to start? Cancelo. I'm not so sure if Kulusevski will be available. Start Mitrovic or Andreas? Mitrovic. I mean, don't bench Andreas, though. Thank you, Manish. Like he says, like and subscribe. It'd be very much appreciated. Trippier or Perrod? Trippier, come on. I don't think that's the question. Even though they're facing Arsenal, Trippier all day long. White, Somerville or Bueno first on the bench? White. Bench boost this week? Depends on your squad. I'm not sure where your bench is, so I can't say. Would you go Andreas or Willian, captain of Eleno? Probably Andreas Pereira. Hi Dylan, what was your moves? I made 3 transfers from -4 here. Cucurella in for Cancelo, which I don't like. Andreas in for Trossard and Mitrovic in for Greenwood. Mount or Mitrovic? Mitrovic. Rodrigo is the good option. He is decent, and Leeds could have a double in 20, so he would be the best option by far from Leeds. So he's decent. Is he great? I don't think so. I'm guessing that's White or Cancelo. I'd say Cancelo. Thank you, JR. I appreciate it. Bench 1, Martinelli, Andreas, De Bruyne. Probably Martinelli. I have Mitrovic and Andreas, but I'm going to captain Andreas because of the yellow card situation with Mitrovic. Good idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. I still think it's worth going for Mitrovic over him. But look, if Mitrovic gets the yellow card, then it can obviously backfire, and those that don't captain Mitrovic will be laughing. But yeah, it's a good idea for sure, and it's a safer pick. I have Saka, Odegaard, Salah, Rodrigo, Rashford, Haaland, Mitrovic, Havertz, and have to bench one. Probably bench Rodrigo, actually, oddly enough. I wouldn't bench an Arsenal player over the others, so yeah, it'd have to be Rodrigo benched. Start Botman or Cancelo? Cancelo, we've covered this already. Start Martial or Almiron? I would go for Martial for the fixture. Almiron or Trossard? Almiron, all day long for me. Captain Mitrovic over Haaland? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Amir says, the 2 times I didn't want my players to get the 5th yellow in Tony and Maddison, they got it. If I bring in Mitrovic in for Martial, he will get a hat-trick in yellows. Let's wait and see. Maybe this will be your 3rd time lucky. But yeah, that is quite bad luck, actually. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. I mean, like I said, I don't think you'll get the yellow, but it could definitely happen. It could be for something stupid like an argument or a dive or something stupid like that. So let's just wait and see. Martial or Tony? Martial this week. Martial to Mitrovic, yeah, that looks fine. And then I would captain Mitrovic personally, but it's up to you. Cancelo out for Bueno? No. Unless it's to fund another move, I'd say no. Any news on Lisandro Martinez? He should be available. Even McAllister got a warm welcome today from Brighton. He's available. Messi should be available in the next day or so. All the Argentines are pretty much back. Martinez was on the bench for Villa. Romero started for Spurs. A lot of examples. So, yeah, I think he'll be available for the next game. And he could start, and that will push Luke Shaw to the left-back position. Dalot to Shaw or Martial to Mitrovic? Well, Dalot to Shaw... That does look like the better move because I just don't see Dalot starting right now, and it could be a while before he gets back into the team. But Mitrovic is a great captaincy option. So if you're going to captain Mitrovic, then I'd go for Martial to Mitrovic. Otherwise, I'd go for Shaw. Andreas for Almiron? No. What do you think? Should I play Castagna or Cancelo? Cancelo for me. Thoughts on Bueno to Ream from -4 and bench White? No chance. Honestly, no chance. Start Gabriel or Cancelo? Cancelo. But Tony probably had a bet on him getting a yellow. Yeah, let's not even talk about that. And let's see what the hearing says as well. Thoughts on Wan-Bissaka or Malacia? Like I said, I don't expect them to be nailed on long term. So I would expect them to keep their place for maybe the next 2 or 3. But beyond that, I'm not so sure. And actually, I think one will drop out even as soon as Game Week 19 or Game Week 20 because Lisandro Martinez will be back. That will push Luke Shaw to the left-back position. And Malacia could be benched as a result. So yeah, I'm a bit concerned about that. Let me just deal with this spam and then I'm going to answer Kai's question. So 1 second. I promise I won't spam. Yeah, I have Mitrovic, Darwin and Haaland up front and midfield. I have Andreas, Martinelli, Saka, De Bruyne and Rashford. So who to bench? It's a tough decision. It's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I would bench Darwin. I think Liverpool could have plenty of spaces against Brentford. I could see both teams scoring 2 or 3 goals, but I just don't trust Darwin from those options you mentioned. So he would be the one I'd bench. It's an unpopular opinion. You might disagree, but that would be the way I'd go about it. Foden to Mount or Robertson to Shaw? Robertson to Shaw, I think, is the better option. What do you think? Should I play Castagna or Cancelo? We literally covered it. Trossard or Martinelli? Martinelli. Start Foden or Almiron? Almiron, as we covered before. Wilson to Mitrovic? Yes, I would do it. Cucurella or Shaw in for James? Shaw. Let's see, any new questions? Cancelo, Aspie, Shaw, Trippier, White, which three to start? I mean, it's kind of similar, but a few different players in there. I mean, I start Aspilicueta, I'd start Luke Shaw and Trippier. Yeah, that'd be it probably. -8 for Mount and Cucurella. Depends which players you bring out, but I'm not a big fan, I'll be honest. Already did Martial to Mitrovic instead of Darwin. Martial hat-trick incoming. Well, there's a risk. He's playing Bournemouth, who are awful, so there's always that risk. If I had Martial in my team, would I have got rid of him for Mitrovic? I'm just not so sure. I think it's a worthwhile transfer, don't get me wrong, but when he's having Bournemouth, it's just such a difficult kind of thing to balance out, and it could definitely backfire. Trippier, White, Saliba, Botman, which two to start? Trippier and White would be my picks. White or Dunku to start, I'd go for White. Foden, Odegaard, Martinelli, bench 1. I would bench Foden. Pick 3, I think we've done this already, but just in case, I'd basically bench Gabriel Madara. Sterling or Havertz? I think Havertz, but Sterling's fine as well. Thank you as well, Mohamed. Thank you very much. Bench Almiron or Martial? I would bench Almiron. Swap Cancelo for who? Already have Trippier, Shaw, White, Castagna. That's the thing. You've already got most of the key players. I'd say Botman would be my favourite. Botman or Cucurella would be the best ones from those you don't have. And Cucurella is simply because of 19 and 20. Beyond that, I'm not a big fan. Also, Martial to Mitrovic, I don't feel like it's worth it, to be honest. Yeah, that's the thing, though. There's a lot of a risk attached. You know, Mitrovic could be suspended for the other game. Martial's facing Bournemouth. So, look, it's about timing. And if I had Martial, would I get rid of him for Mitrovic? I probably wouldn't, actually. But it's a worthwhile transfer. I know that might sound a bit contradictory, but that's genuinely what I feel about it. And I only got in Mitrovic because it's in for Greenwood, and Trossard wasn't doing it for me. I hit a -4 White to Silva and used my bench boost as well. Yeah, that's completely fine. I mean, well, I say completely fine. I think White is much better than Thiago Silva, but for the next two, I think Silva should get more points. Should is the key word. Start Andreas or Nketiah. Andreas for the double. Do I sell Tony for Martial? Free transfer. I think Tony could do well against Liverpool, but I'm not sure if he starts. I'd probably do the transfer, but I also think there are better options than Martial in the long term. So if I had Martial, I'd keep him. If I didn't have him, would I bring him in? I'm not so sure. I think what could really swing it your way and get Martial in is for the double in 20, if it does happen. Salah replacement. I wouldn't sell him, but if you were to sell him, I'd go for De Bruyne for the double in 20. Transfer in Trent for Bueno. Yeah, that looks fine. Once again, you have to change your structure, though. You're going from a cheap defender to one of the most expensive in the game. Can you rank your top 5 captaincy players in order? Probably Mitrovic first. Second would be Rashford. Third, I might go for Havertz. Fourth, Mount. And fifth, I'd probably go for Haaland. Something like that. Bench boost this week, knowing I have the squad for it. Well, if you like your squad and you don't want to bench any players, then I'd go for it. Madara, we literally went through your question. I don't know why you're repeating it, but bye-bye. I have the money to do for a -4. I'm not sure. Oh, Bueno to Trent for a -4? No, I wouldn't do that. I don't think Liverpool keep a clean sheet in Game Week 19. Bench Zaha or Foden? I'd bench Zaha, I think. Start Almiron or Adams? I'd start Almiron. Choose to keep Martial and bring in Andreas. Let me just get your question up again. Chat is absolutely crazy right now. Yeah, I completely lost, I think. Thank you for the super chat, Aaron. I appreciate it. Got Trippier, White, Robertson, and Cancelo. Should I do Greenwood to Mitrovic and Cancelo to a 4.9 million defender for a -4? If yes, who? Or should I roll? That is a good defense, by the way. I don't have many objections towards that. So Greenwood to Mitrovic, Cancelo to a 4.9. Yes, I would. And who would it be? It'd be Luke Shaw. It would be Luke Shaw. The other one that I'd consider is Botman, but you could start Shaw as soon as Game Week 19, and he could have a double in 20. So, yeah, I'd do it for a -4, and I'd bring in Luke Shaw. So thank you very much for that, Aaron. Thank you very much, Gamer. Love to the Maldives, and yeah, I think that's the first time we've actually gotten someone from there, or that is at least publicly said it. Mitrovic or Haaland captain? Mitrovic. Would you do Robertson to Trent for a -4? No. Your thoughts on Rodrigo? Like I said, if Leeds have the double in 20, he's the best option from, their ranks. He's a decent choice in general, but I'm not a huge fan, and I think there are better options at a similar price, including Rashford, Odegaard, Martinelli, not to mention the likes of Saka at a more expensive price, and the premiums like De Bruyne and Salah, and Almiron, of course. Mount or Havertz, I think Havertz will outscore Mount. That's a kind of personal prediction, but it's also about who do you bring in these players for. So with Havertz, you know, there's only 3 forward slots available. Obviously, with midfielders, you have 5, and you've got a bit more choice there. And that's why I typically prefer Mount. But I think in terms of this week only, I do prefer Havertz. It's a really close call, though. It could go either way. Start Martinelli or Martial. Like I said, I'd probably go for Martinelli despite the fixtures. Bench 1, Cancelo, Patterson, Trippier. Patterson, I'd bench him. Welcome, Genius Gamer. Good to see you once again. Thank you, Ibrahim. First time tuning into the stream for a long time. Congrats on the World Cup, Dylan. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So happy to see Messi complete football. Yep, it was a pleasure. It was kind of like a dreamlike World Cup. Never really expected it, of course. I mean, going into the tournament, I had kind of predictions. My bet was on Argentina or Brazil winning it. And thankfully, it did happen. Haaland or Mitrovic captain? I'd go for Mitrovic. And Haaland is in my thoughts, of course. He always is, but I'm going for Mitrovic this week. Is he a must-have? No. Is he the best captaincy option, in my opinion? Yes. That's why I got him in. But he's not a must-have. Welcome, Sophia. Good to see you. Captain Havertz, Haaland or Rashford? I put Rashford second in my kind of captaincy ranking. And it's really close. You could switch it either way. I would go for Rashford or Havertz. And it really just depends, you know, how confident are you in Chelsea and in Havertz? If you are, I'd go for him simply for the double, but my gut feeling is Rashford out of those 3. Odegaard or Rodrigo? Odegaard. Vice-captain Haaland to Salah? I would probably keep on Haaland, but it's not a bad shout. I think it could be a high-scoring game, so it's not a bad pick. Cancelo, White, Walker, pick 1 to start. Cancelo. Foden and Greenwood to Mitrovic and Andreas -4. Yep, I think that's good. Sir Robertson to Martial? Yes, but if it's for a -4 hit, that's where I would probably say no, because I think Robertson will be available in 20, and I'm not so sure if Martial's a great option after Game Week 20. Almiron or Trossard to start? Almiron. Salah Andreas captain? I would probably go for Salah. Are you taking a -8 hit? No, only a -4. Mitrovic or Mount captain? Mitrovic. Do I go Almiron to Andreas or Martial to Mitrovic? It's a close one, but probably Martial to Mitrovic. I think Almiron is worth keeping. Is Shaw worth it for the next 3 weeks? Yes, especially if they double. Happy New Year to you as well, Sefer. Good to see you as always. Nunez to Mitrovic? Yes, I would do it. Would you do Martial to Mitrovic? If it was me and my team, I wouldn't. I think it's a good transfer, and in the long term, it pays off. But if Martial gets a double in 20 and he's got Bournemouth in 19, it's really tricky for me to recommend that transfer. So it's a good transfer. Would I do it? No, I wouldn't do it myself. That's why when people ask, should I transfer out Darwin or Martial for Mitrovic, I said get rid of Darwin instead. Captain Rashford, Haaland, Martinelli or De Bruyne? Probably Rashford, like I said earlier. Staying with Martial, White to Shaw is my transfer. 2 free transfers next game week. Thoughts? Looks good to me. You're in a good position, and you could even, you know, triple up on United if they have the double, and you could also bring in some more City players ahead of their double. Dean, me or Castagna? At the moment, probably Luca Dean, but not a big fan of any of them. Castagna was doing really well just before the World Cup break. I would go for Odegaard over Martinelli, but it's a coin toss, really. It could go either way. And that's the problem with having both. And honestly, in most cases, I'd start both all the time. Is Robertson going to start? Apparently he won't. I'm going to try see where the lineups came from. So if anyone does know where the lineup came from, the one that Superstar put in the chat, that would be greatly appreciated, as always. And by the way, you have over 200 people watching, which is always, you know, a pleasure to see so many of you here. But let's keep on going. Let's try to get this stream to over 200 likes. That would be massively appreciated and a great way to start the new year. But I'm going to quickly check on another browser if we've got any team news, because I want to get it on screen as well and show you some different stuff, not just my team. Let's see. Liverpool. Where the hell did we get this lineup from? Maybe it was from Team News and Ticks. Let me check this out. Probably did, didn't we? Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, so he posted something saying Tsimikas is starting. Yeah, so that does make sense. Let's see if I can get this Liverpool lineup. Is this guy reliable? FPL reports. Well, we've got this. This guy's definitely reliable, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so everyone's saying Tsimikas starts over Robertson. So that is the news, really, that we have. Robertson starts over him. Chamberlain still starts, so no Gakpo. And Nunez and Salah also start. Trent as well, no problems with him. Just Robertson missing out. Is Havertz worth a try? Yeah, I think he's worth a try. Yeah, but am I going to go for him? No, but he is worth a try, of course. He's probably my top 3 captaincy options this week, even over Mason Mount. Hey Dylan, Dean or Castagna? Luca Dean. And what about a Chelsea defender? I'd probably go for a Chelsea defender instead, because the way I see it, I could see Cucurella and these defenders who start both games getting, 5 points in this double game week, and then maybe a clean sheet against Palace. That's the way I think he'll go. Transfer out Nunez or Nketiah to bring in Mitrovic. Nunez. I'd rather keep Nketiah. Oh, thank you, Abhishek. I appreciate that, because there's so many. The Spion Cop, Cop Central, and a few others that give team news. So I'm going to check that now. Maybe get it up on screen. Let's see, Cop Central. There's so many of these. Yeah, I think he's reliable, isn't he? Yeah, he got it absolutely spot on last time. I'm checking the lineup he put for the Leicester game, and yeah, he got it spot on as well. So yeah, let's put this on screen. Another one to keep an eye on. I actually wasn't aware of this account, so thank you. I appreciate that, Abhishek. So let's go to this screen. So this is the team for Liverpool against Brentford. Alisson, Trent, Konate, Virgil van Dijk, Tsimikas, Fabinho, Thiago, Elliott, Chamberlain, Salah, and Darwin Nunez. So Robertson does miss out. I'm not sure if he's on the bench. I'm guessing he isn't. But yeah, people were making fun of Oxlade-Chamberlain starting. Yeah, he's, I think, the weak link in the team, but still. Should be a high-scoring game. Should be very entertaining. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. And once again, thank you to everyone who pointed out where it came from. Let's now go for a few other screens very soon. Saka to Mount for -4. Honestly, I'd say no. I wouldn't do that. Will United get double next week? At one point, I think Ben Crellin said there's a 70% chance of it happening. So it's likely, but it's not certain. Cucurella or Shaw for James? Luke Shaw for me, honestly. -4 for Cucurella, only if it's to fund another move. If not, I wouldn't do it. Bench Almiron or Andreas? I would bench Almiron. We've covered this question 6 or 7 times. Saka to Mount? Yep, we just went through that. I think you've seen it now. Play 2 of Patterson, Cancelo, White. I just bench Patterson and play Cancelo and White. Would you do Trossard out for Odegaard or Andreas and Mitrovic? I would do Trossard out for Odegaard, if not Mitrovic. The only reason I did it so basically I did Andreas in for Trossard and then I got in Mitrovic. The reason why I didn't go for Odegaard is actually because that meant I couldn't afford Cucurella, and also I would have 8 attackers, and that's not a position I want to be in. I would like to have a kind of clear option to bench most weeks. Captain Sterling or Mount? I'd probably go for Mount, but it's a close call. Mitrovic or Havertz? I'd go for Mitrovic. Sterling or Mitrovic? I would go for Mitrovic. 8.5 million midfielder. I think Saka's the best 8 million midfielder. I think Almiron's the best sub 6 million midfielder, and around 6-7 million, I think Odegaard and Martinelli are the standouts. So just depends what you're looking for. I would go for Cancelo this week. Would you bench Foden over Trossard? I'd actually start Foden. I have a sneaky feeling he could start. It's just a gut feeling. I don't know anything. It's just kind of intuition, you could say. I'm more confident of Cancelo starting. With Foden, I'm literally 50-50 as always, but I think he will. Bench boost with Ward, Martinelli. Let me get this up. And Botman, yeah. And can -4 to another defender any price. That's a decent bench. I can see why you're looking to bench boost, and I could see 10-15 points, and that would be good enough for a bench boost, I think. You could even get more, arguably. Pope or Henderson? Nottingham Forest, no. Yeah, Nick Pope. Start Almiron or White? I would go for Almiron. Would you rather transfer out Kane or Martial for Mitrovic? I'd rather keep Kane and sell Martial. I don't think Malacia will stay in the team long. The way I see it panning out, I think Lisandro Martinez comes in Game Week 19 potentially. If that is the case, Luke Shaw plays left back, Wan-Bissaka right back, and then in Game Week 20, I think Dalot gets back into the side as well. And then you've got the usual back 4 for Manchester United. But they have been playing well, even with the absentees. So maybe it'll take a bit more than that. And maybe I'm wrong. Play Trippier Almiron. I'd go for Trippier. Martinelli Odegaard. It's literally 50-50. Go for either one. I would say Odegaard. How about having Fulham defender? No, I don't think Fulham are good defensively. Against Leicester, that's where I could see a clean sheet potentially. I mean, it's a really close call, but I don't trust Fulham defensively. I wouldn't go for any of them. Do you think Shaw's a much better option than Chelsea defenders over the next 5 game weeks? I think he is, yeah. I think Chelsea would keep a clean sheet in 20, and I don't think United will against City, but they could also have the double there, and if they do, I think Luke Shaw is definitely the better pick. Would you take out Foden or Kulusevski? I'd actually rather keep Foden and get rid of Kulusevski, to be honest. Yeah. Should I roll the transfer, sell Cancelo for sure? I think I'd roll the transfer. I mean, it's a really close call, actually. Shaw's facing Bournemouth, and you might want Cancelo back in Game Week 20, and then you might want to get rid of another defender instead. So I'd probably roll the transfer. Will De Bruyne play? I mean, why would City bench him when they're facing Chelsea and they're in the title race? I mean, he has to start. I mean, if he does get benched, then Pep is definitely overthinking it. So let's go for a few different screens now. We showed you the supposed Liverpool lineup against Brentford, and I would like to see some news about Tony, by the way, if he's starting or not. And by the way, the deadline is 24 minutes away, so be sure to lock in your teams. The site could crash. I don't expect it to happen, but you never know. So let's go for a few screens. So in terms of the fixture ticker now, City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Fulham, and Southampton are in the top 5. You even got Brentford on the precipice, and if Ivan Toney doesn't get suspended, he's going to be facing Bournemouth, Leeds, Southampton, Arsenal and Palace, and he could be the go-to replacement for Mitrovic. And remember, Tony has reached 100 points in FPL this season. In terms of the worst, in terms of the fixture ticker, you've got Palace, Liverpool, Bournemouth, West Ham and Wolves in the bottom 5. Even Newcastle are there, but I'd still recommend Trippier, Botman and also Almiron. I think they are great options in the long term. So that is the fixture ticker, and this could also help you with your captaincy decision. This is the predicted points. Mitrovic is first, closely followed by Sterling, Havertz, Kane and Mason Mount, and I can understand that. I think this is a pretty good list, actually. I don't think I'd put Harry Kane above Mason Mount, but it's still understandable. You've got Salah, Decordova-Reid, Leno and Martial also up there. Even Willian has made an appearance in this kind of top list, but yeah, the algorithm is definitely favouring these double game weekers, and Mitrovic does look like the best captaincy option on paper this week. That is until he gets a yellow card against Leicester, of course. In terms of prices, let's refresh the page. You should expect the likes of Mitrovic, Cucurella, Mount, Andreas, Havertz, Trent, Ream, Thiago Silva and Trippier to all go up in price. Even someone like Fabian Schär is close to doing that. And is there anyone else? Rashford, oh yeah, he's going to go up in price very soon. Nketiah as well, a great differential at the moment. De Gea, I think that ownership will just continue to rise, and also his price, especially if you now get the double very soon. In terms of players going down, I mean, wow, Phil Foden, there's no chance he doesn't go down tonight. I mean, look at that, minus 205%. Trossard as well, Cancelo, De Bruyne, Tony, Zaha, Hutchinson. I mean, these doesn't really matter. Kulusevski is a bit of a relevant pick. And look, it continues. You've got the likes of Dalot as well, who's going to go down in price too. So that is quite crazy. Yeah, expect some big and volatile changes in prices tonight. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything covered that I want to. One other thing to show, and this is a kind of comparison between Chelsea assets, Mason Mount versus Havertz. So as you can see, nothing special from either of them whatsoever. You got Mount with 6 goal contributions, Havertz with 5. In recent weeks, I will say Havertz has been the more impressive of the two, and they both have the ability to do really well, especially against the weaker opposition, so to speak. Man City will be tough, but then you got Fulham, and that's a derby. Anything can happen. I actually think Fulham could win that potentially, especially at home. But these are the two options. If I had to pick one without thinking about position and price and everything, I'd probably say Havertz. But having said that, I don't like wasting a precious forward slot on Havertz. And that's why Mason Mount might be a bit more accessible for a lot of us. But that is kind of my opinion on this. Let me know your thoughts, Mount or Havertz, and maybe Sterling. I've seen a lot of love for Sterling as well in this chat today. Thoughts on Trent? I've seen some people talk about getting rid of Robertson for Trent for a -4 even. I don't think it's worth it. I don't see Liverpool keeping a clean sheet today. The fixtures afterwards, I think there's a few, but Liverpool are still in the bottom 3, I think, for the fixture ticker. It's a tough call. I would avoid for now. Saka or Mount, in knowing that I already have Martinelli. Still Saka for me, to be honest. It makes sense to get Mount in now, and then you can get Saka in after, but honestly, I think Saka's a much better option. Martial or Nunez out for Mitrovic? Nunez. I'd keep Martial. Sell KDB to Cody Gakpo? No. I don't think Gakpo will start today. I'd be very shocked if he did. The league lineup supposedly doesn't have him in there. Klopp said he probably won't play and he'll be available in Game Week 20 instead. There's no chance I'd do that. And KDB also has a double in 20, so honestly, I'd hold that for at least until Game Week 21. Edouard plus Walker to Mitrovic captain and Dean -4. Looks good to me. I'm not a huge fan of Villa defensively, you will know this, but that's a good set of transfers. Dylan, is it worth taking White out for Shaw and Kane out for Mitrovic? No, because Kane has a double in 20. Ben White is a good option in general, and you'd want him long term. I like Shura Mitrovic, but I wouldn't do that. I would bench Martinelli, Brandon. Would you start Perod? Probably not. I don't like Southampton. I think they're a poor team. They're bottom for a reason. Is Gakpo on the bench? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he is. Foden to start. If I had to say yes or no and just go one way or the other, I'd say yes. I think he starts. Cancelo keep or sell? I think he's a keep. I got rid of him, but only to fund other moves. Otherwise, I would have kept him. I would start Cancelo, Patrick. Nunez to Mitrovic for a hit? I think I would. It's a tough one, but I would. Cancelo, White or Perisic? Cancelo. Trippier, White? Trippier. Start Mitrovic or Darwin? I mean, come on, you're not going to bench Mitrovic, are you? I think you know the answer to that. Shaw or Chelsea defender? Luke Shaw. Gakpo, Mitrovic in for KDB and Greenwood. Gakpo bench this week? No. I wouldn't do that. You would want KDB for Game Week 20. I don't think that's worth it. Going for Rashford captain, I love it. Honestly, he would be my captain. He's my favourite from the single game makers. Che Adams or Darwin out for Mitrovic. From those two, probably Che Adams. Bench one, please. Almiron, Nunez, Martinelli. I would bench Nunez. I mean, it's between him and Almiron, and I think most people would say Almiron, but I think I'd bench Nunez. Cancelo or White, who to start? Cancelo. Wilson to Mitrovic and bench Martinelli or save transfer. I would do Wilson to Mitrovic and then, yeah, benching Martinelli is not ideal, but still decent. Andreas captain, like I said, it's not a bad shout, but I think there are better options, probably 4 or 5 at least. Bueno or Patterson, I prefer Bueno, but there's not much to separate them. Start Cancelo or Trippier, I would go for Cancelo. Havertz or Mitrovic to Martial. By the way, scrap what I just said just now. Trippier over Cancelo, but it's really close. And yeah, I think we just lost the message because you're spamming. No, we got it here. Mitrovic. Mitrovic is better than Havertz for me. Nketiah or Mitrovic? Mitrovic. Especially for this week. Beyond that, that's where you could start to do a bit of a switcheroo, go to a Tony or an Nketiah. But for the time being, I think Mitrovic. Andreas or Haaland captain? I'd go for Haaland. Let's go back to my team, by the way. Just to avoid any confusion, and it could also help answer some of the questions you're asking already, such as bench order. You can see who I'm kind of prioritizing, who my captains are, and all of that. Mitrovic for Martial -4. Would I do that? Probably not. No. Even for free, I'd be a bit skeptical, but for -4, I'm not so sure. So for this game week, Mount or Saka? Mason Mount. Foden, Almiron to start. I'd start Almiron. 2 free transfers, Darwin and Martial to Mitrovic and Havertz. It looks good, to be fair. I like the transfers. Having said that, what I would do is probably just Darwin to Mitrovic and roll the other transfer. But the other one is still fine. Bench Trossard or Almiron? I would bench Trossard. Trippier or Castagna? I'd start Trippier. Almiron or Andreas? I would start Andreas, bench Almiron. Who would I rather have long term? It definitely is Almiron. Bench Andreas or Almiron? Yeah, we covered that. Cancelo, Thiago Silva, White, Trippier. Who to start in the 11? Thiago Silva, Trippier, and probably Cancelo. Did you captain Dennis last season? Yeah, I did. And I wasn't that fussed about it. It was kind of funny, to be fair. KDB, keep or sell? He's a keep. I don't have Mitrovic, but I do have Mount. However, I'm thinking of captaining Rashford. Thoughts? Yeah, I would do the same thing. If I don't have Mitrovic, I'd do the exact same thing. I don't see anything wrong with it. He's my vice captain right now. I think I'm eliminated, rock and roll. I mean, I was only in one cup, the general one, and I got knocked out of it. The others don't start until later in the season. So, yeah, I never really pay attention to it. Wait, I mean to say the other way around. I don't remember your question. I'll try to see it quickly, but we got lost. Yeah, you have to probably repeat what you said before. Rashford captain. Like I said, he's probably second for me this week. He's definitely in the conversation. Do you think I need to sell Martial, Nunez to Mitrovic? You don't need to, but would I? I'd sell Nunez to Mitrovic, yeah. And look, it would not surprise me at all if this is the day that Nunez gets his big return. And by the way, thank you, Rock and Roll, for sorting that out. I mean, Jesus, how many times can one spam? Bench Martinelli or Trossard? I would bench Trossard. I want to captain Mount, but I remember Dennis last season. Yeah, but Mason Mount isn't a risk of suspension. Yeah, anyone can get a red card, but, you know, I wouldn't overthink it too much, you know. That happened. Dennis is a completely different player to Mason Mount. I don't see Mason Mount getting a red. I mean, it's completely up to you. I don't think Mount is a great FPL option in general. You know, that's my concern with him. Almiron or Andreas, we covered this. I would start Andreas, but long term, you know who the better one is. Will you bring in Trossard later? No, I just got rid of him. And unless he shows some incredible form where, you know, it's impossible to ignore him, I'm not bringing him back, I think. A double Gameweek would change that, but I don't think that's going to happen now. Azpilicueta, Cucurella. I would rather go for Cucurella for the time being because he should be more nailed on. Once again, would I get rid of Martial for Mitrovic for a -4? I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. For free, maybe, I would consider it, but Martial's facing Bournemouth. If I had Nunez as well, I'd get rid of him, even for a -4, but not Martial. Play Cancelo or Botman. Also have Trippier. I play Cancelo. 2 free transfers, Cancelo and Grima to Mitrovic and Akanji. Yeah, looks fine to me. Akanji should be the most nailed on City defender, and Mitrovic is a great choice, so I like that. Will Aspie start both games? I think so. I think so. Herod or Trippier? Trippier for me. Bench Almiron or Martinelli for Martial in. I would bench Almiron. Play White or Cancelo? I would play Cancelo. James to Cucurella -4. I wouldn't do it. Look, with Cucurella, like I said, the only way I would do it, or the only reason I would, is to fund other moves. That's it. Otherwise, he would not be in my team. Martinelli or Mount? For this week, Mount. Long term is always Martinelli. Yeah, potentially rock and roll. I mean, you would say there's a bit of a high ceiling with the doubles, but the fixtures themselves aren't great. It's just about picking the right ones, and it's going to be a really close call, I think. There's going to be a lot of 50-50 decisions that go the other way, and that's how it typically is. Start Cancelo or Bueno. I'd go for Cancelo. Who to bench? Trippier, Cancelo, Martinelli, Patterson. I would bench Patterson. Bench Cancelo, Trippier, or White. I would bench White. You can kind of see a lot of these answers, like I said already, with my team selection. Captain Mount or Andreas. Mason Mount. Bench Almiron or White. I would bench White. Once again, you can refer to my team for that answer. Is Andreas worth captaining? Yeah, he is worth captaining. Do I trust him as much as I would with Mitrovic and the others? No, but then again, he's not a yellow card suspension risk like Mitrovic. Hi, Dylan. Martial, Wilson to Mitrovic. Keep Martial, get rid of Wilson, in my opinion. Best defender to sub in for James this week, mate. For this week, I mean, you'd arguably say Cucurella in that case, or another Chelsea defender, but for me, it's those 3 that I keep on mentioning. Luke Shaw, White and Botman. I think those are the 3 best options, especially if you're looking for cheap defenders. They offer extremely good value right now. Bench Martinelli, Rashford or Darwin? Darwin for me. I know it's going to be an unpopular opinion. It can backfire because I can see a really open game there. I think Nunez will get chances, but I can't bench Martinelli or Rashford for Darwin right now. Should I start Raya or Kepa? Well, Kepa, he's got a double game week. Yeah, it does include City, but I could see Kepa getting even 2 or 3 points in that game through saves, and also the other game against Fulham. -4, Brandon Williams to what defenders plus bench boost? The 3 defenders I keep on mentioning, Shaw, Botman, White, I think does the trick for you. If you can't afford that, then you'd probably just look at someone like Bueno. But yeah, I think Botman would be the ideal one who's very accessible. Almiron or Andreas? I think we just went through that quite a few times. This week, I mean, you start Andreas. I mean, I don't know what else to say there. Dunk or White to start? I'd go for White. If Cancelo's benched again, I might be in the mud. Would need Martial to hammer home a goal, which is possible. He's facing Bournemouth. If Cancelo's benched again, I'd be very shocked, but it's Pep. Martial por Havertz por -4. Yo no lo haría porque Martial juega con Bournemouth y para mí puede anotar un gol o 2. Y Havertz es no tiene mucha continuidad en cómo juega. Es muy, no sé cómo decirlo en español, pero inconsistent. Para mí yo no lo haría por un -4. Y también Martial puede tener una doble fecha en la jornada 20. Bruno or Trossard, I would go for, well, Bruno this week, yeah. Bruno Fernandes all day long. Play Foden or Andreas or Almiron. Andreas Pereira. Yeah, Michael, I hope you didn't put that again because, yeah, we did go through that. Do you see Cucurella getting 4 more points than Cancelo? So is it worth a -4 here? I'll be honest, no, I don't. I think City could actually keep a clean sheet there. If Cancelo starts, you know, that's 6 points. And Cucurella, I can see him getting 5 or 6 points himself. Like I said, the only reason I did it is to fund other moves, and it's kind of a shame. Bench boost with Ward, Darwin, White, Bueno. It's a good bench. I think you could have better benches later in the season, but it's decent. I think you could get 10, 15 points, which would be fine. Salah to KDB Game Week 20, I am considering it. And at the moment, that is my plan. But I want to see how these teams play. If Salah plays great today, or if Liverpool look really on it, then I would reconsider. Is Tony playing? I don't know. My gut feeling is yes, but I just couldn't tell you for sure. Foden or Almiron? This week I'd go for Almiron. But if we get any sort of murmurings before the deadline that Foden starts, I'd probably go for him instead. Bench Almiron or Nunez? I mean, I said bench Nunez, but with the fixture in mind, I think most would go for Nunez instead of Almiron. But me personally, I'd go for Almiron starting. Captain Havertz, he's probably third in my ranking. I think he's a good choice. Having said that, he's not the most reliable player. He has disappointed in the past when he's been heavily captained. But yeah, he's a decent captain, of course. Haaland captain, I mean, that's just the simple thing, really, isn't it? Just don't think about these double gameweek players. Don't think about Mitrovic yellow card and all that. Just go for Haaland. It's not a bad choice. It never is. Trippier White to start. You can kind of see it in my team selection as well. Trippier is the one I'm always going to start. White, I'm prepared to bench from time to time. Mount or Saka? Saka. Do you think Dean is a good option? He could become a good option, but I haven't really seen him do it on a consistent basis. I don't trust Villa defensively. So honestly, I'd say he's a potentially good option right now. No. Captain Andreas, like I said, decent option, but I think there are better. Play Castagno or White. I'd still go for White. Bench order for Almiron, Patterson, Walker. Probably the way you did it. Almiron first. Bench Martinelli or Foden. I'd bench Foden. Captain Salah, Kane or Rashford. I'd go for Rashford this week. Bench one, Cancelo, White or Trippier. I would bench White. Captain Rashford, Vice Captain Mount. Looks fine to me. You could do it the other way around. Honestly, it doesn't matter. I think they're both great options, and that's good for this week. And when I say great options, for Mount, only this week. After that, not so sure. Good luck to you as well, Yazid. And we've got 8 minutes left for the deadline, so let's go through some more questions. Hopefully some different ones as well. Shaw or Aspie? Shaw. I almost said the wrong one there. Who would you bench out? Martinelli, Salah, Andreas, Mount, Rashford, Darwin, Haaland, or Mitrovic? That's the problem with 8 attackers. Obviously, Andreas, it's not going to be a problem in future weeks. Who would I bench? Darwin Nunez. It's as simple as that. Who to bench? Martinelli or Rodrigo? I'd bench Rodrigo. DCL or Skamaka? Can I say neither? Because that would be my answer. But if I had to pick one, it'd probably be Skamaka. How many yellow cards does Mitrovic have? He's got 4. One more and he's out. But it does get reset after, they play their 19th game, and then it will be up to 10 yellow cards for a suspension. Bench Trippier White. Once again, you can refer to my team, and we've answered this already. Rashford, Haaland, or Andreas captain. I would go for Rashford. De Bruyne or Salah. For this week, Salah. But I am looking to do Salah to De Bruyne in 20 potentially, and we'll talk more about this later in the week. Darwin or Martial to Mitrovic? Darwin. I'd keep Martial. Is Team Rim a good shout? If you want a Fulham defender, him, Tete, Leno would be the best ways to cover Fulham, but would I do it? No, I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet. Yeah, we went through the Liverpool lineup already. Robertson's not starting. It looks like Tsimikas will, and the rest pretty much remains the same, I think, for Liverpool. Captain Haaland or Andreas? Haaland. I'm going Rashford captain, have Mitrovic. Looks fine to me. I think it's definitely worth considering. I have thought about going for Rashford over him as well. No, I'm not going to use any boosters, or in this case it's called a chip. Yeah, I'm not using any. Bench Trippier or Gabriel? I'd bench Gabriel. Captain this week? Mitrovic for me. Amongst Salah, Rashford, Martinelli, Saka, Nunez, Martial, and Andreas, which one should I bench? Nunez for me. Probably selling Darwin if he blanks today. I mean, look, if he blanks again, then it's just complete trolling, and he probably would have missed a few more chances because I think he will get the opportunities. Bench Martial or Odegaard? Wow. I'd probably bench Martial, but he's facing Bournemouth, mate. You don't want to do that, trust me. Bench Cancelo or Trippier? That's a tough one. I'd probably bench Cancelo, which I said earlier as well. It's 50-50 almost. Trossard transferred out for Odegaard. Yep, looks great to me. If I made only one free transfer this week, it probably would have been that. Welcome, Chelsea Blues. Good to see you. Toughest benching starting decision of the season. Start Cancelo or Trippier. Yeah, I can see that. I think Cancelo's a better chance of a clean sheet, but Trippier's a better FPL option. I'd go for Trippier. Who out of Mount, Almiron, and Martinelli for Andreas? To bench, it'd be Almiron. I would not get rid of any of them for Andreas. Worth having a -4 for Andreas in for Almiron? No. No chance. No. Might pay off this week, but in the long term, you want Almiron back, and that could also block other moves. I wouldn't do that. Short to James for a -4. It's the other way around. Yeah, I think it's worth it. And he could have a double in 20. Nunez to Mitrovic for long term, or is that move for the next couple of fixtures? I still think Mitrovic can do well in the tougher fixtures, and thus he is a good long term option. However, you could also foreseeably see yourself getting rid of Mitrovic in game week 20, 21, or 22 for a Tony if he doesn't get a suspension, or maybe someone else like Nketiah. So I think he is a good long term option and better than Nunez, but you might get rid of him at some point. I support Arsenal from the Premier League. I'll risk with Andreas captain. Good luck, everyone. I like that. Good luck to you. I hope it pays off, and it would be nice to see something different. All I ask is that Mitrovic doesn't get suspended, but I think something dramatic will happen. If Mitrovic gets a yellow, will he miss the cup game or Chelsea? He's going to miss the Chelsea game. The way it works in FPL, or in the Premier League, should I say, if it was a red card, Mitrovic would serve a suspension in the cup and then play in the next league game. However, when it comes to accumulation of yellow cards, that is exclusive to the league. So if he gets that 5th yellow card, he will still be able to play in the FA Cup or Carabao, but not in the next league game. Hopefully that does make sense. Bench White or Almiron? I would bench Ben White. KDB or Almiron? I would probably start KDB. Thank you, Aaron. Bench Trippier, Shaw, Cancelo or White? I'd probably bench White. I know he's got a better fixture on paper than Cancelo, but I think Cancelo's a better chance of a clean sheet there. I would go for him. So bench White. Is Darwin a good differential? I mean, look, he has the potential, but right now he's not scoring the goals. He's got erratic finishing. I think there are better strikers. So he's decent. He's got potential. He's not fulfilling it, though. Thank you, Jay, as always. Best of luck to you as well. Play 2 out of White, Trippier, or Dunk. Who would I bench? Probably Dunk. KDB over Almiron? Yes, I would. Bench Martinelli or Salah? Probably Martinelli. Is there a date to Tony's case decision? I think the hearing is on the 4th of January, so in 2 days' time, so he can play today if he's fit, and after that, he could be suspended for the rest of the season. Who knows? Let's wait and see. Bench Martinelli or Wilson? Bench Wilson. Almiron or Odegaard? I would go for Odegaard. Would you start White or Trippier? I'd go for Trippier. Bench Martinelli or Wilson? I would go for Martinelli to start, Wilson bench. Rashford will bag 15 points this week. I wouldn't mind that at all, to be fair. I'm now leaning Rashford captain, but I don't know why. I'm panicking a little. I think it's just that yellow card suspension looming over Mitrovic, and he always picks up yellow cards. In pre-season, when we covered Fulham and Mitrovic, I made that a big point that he got a lot of yellows last season. I know in the Championship you get more games than the Premier League, but he literally got 10 yellow cards, I believe. So he is a yellow card magnet. So I'm hoping he can at least wait for another week before getting his other yellow, but yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking. And also, we've got these experiences with players like Dennis, which hasn't helped us all. Good luck to you as well, Soldier Boy. Is Matoma in for Trossard a good move? I mean, Matoma was electric against Arsenal. He's always a threat. I also went to the game in the Carabao where Matoma scored, and he's just such a great player. I mean, I like him, but I think there are better options elsewhere. Ward or Pope? I would go for... I'll probably go for Ward, actually, this week. Captain Rashford or Mitrovic? You can see on screen, I'm going for Mitrovic, so that's my answer. But Rashford, there's nothing wrong with him. They're both great. Cancelo or Trippier? This week, I'd go for Trippier, just because he's a better FPL option. I know he's going to start with Cancelo. There's still a bit of a doubt. Why would you do KDB over Almiron? Because I think, well, for one, KDB has a good record against Chelsea. 2, I think City are a much better team than Chelsea. With Arsenal Newcastle, it's kind of a more balanced game. And 3, I think KDB's been great since the restart. He's just been very unlucky not to get more assists. So, what's the aim for the season? Like I said, I'm not really thinking about rank right now, especially with my start. But yeah, I think the plan or the aim from the beginning was to improve on last season. And I think I was around 11k. So to get into the top 10k would be the target. It's going to be difficult. But yeah, top 50k would be decent. You know, it's kind of evolved. I think the top 50k now is like finishing top 10k 3 or 4 years ago. Kane captain, I wouldn't do that. I probably wouldn't. Yep, that is it. We have now closed the deadline, but I'll answer these questions quickly. Hopefully you've done these decisions already. Best 7.3 million attacker. I'd probably say Nketiah. Well, Mitrovic first, then Nketiah, should I say. What price is Tony? That's what I want to know. I'm pretty sure he's a bit over that, isn't he? Let me double check this. So Ivan Toney is 7.5, yeah. So, yeah, Mitrovic first, then Nketiah, and then maybe Martial. Almiron or White? We said this all stream. I would have gone for Almiron over White. Captain Mount or Haaland? Probably Mount. Start Tete or Botman? Tete for the double game week. Almiron or Martial? I would have started Martial. Mount or Salah? Mount, but don't bench Salah. That's really just the captaincy question. Captain Rashford or Shaw? Rashford. Mount or Haaland captain? It would have been Mount, like we said. Start Tete or Botman, yep. Bench Martinelli or Almiron for Havertz? I would have benched Almiron. Yeah, we are locked in. We are all locked in. Thank you, Marco. Always a pleasure seeing you here. Good luck to you as well, Roy. And thank you, Zorenz. We are all done. Thank you, Jay. Here we go. Come on, Rashford. Yeah, I mean, let's see if he gets the, what did he say, 15 or 14 points? Yeah, I mean, that would be great. Burn the transfer. Really didn't know what to do. Wow, not happy with Cancelo, but if I sell him and he starts with a double, before a double, I'd be kicking myself. Yeah, I think he will start, and I might even try to get him back in, but I don't want to take too many hits. I think I might just stick with the one free transfer, which could be Salah to De Bruyne in 20, but I'm going to discuss this later on. I don't want to, you know, make plans just yet. I want to see the games first and see if we've got any more information. Good luck to us, Osadindra, and thank you very much, and let's see how we do. Havertz, Mount or Sterling? I mean, the deadline has passed, but my preference for this week would have actually been Havertz. My problem with him is that he's a forward in the game. Good luck, Joao. Thank you very much. Thank you, Yash. Cheers. Thank you, Anas, as well. Fingers crossed for sure. Opinions on Wan-Bissaka? I think he'll start in Game Week 19, but I think he loses his place very soon, and that could be Game Week 20, for example. Thank you, Melvin. As always, a pleasure. Tell the truth. How do you want the Arsenal-Newcastle game to end? Well, I'm an Arsenal fan, so how do I want it to end? Arsenal winning. It's as simple as that. Even if it means Trippier blanks, so be it. I want Arsenal to win. Thank you. Good luck, guys. Thank you, Simple. Good luck as well, Faris. -4 for Mitrovic for Nketiah. It's a tough one. I probably would have. And although I think Nketiah is better than Martial, the reason for that kind of the reason behind that kind of advice is because Nketiah is facing Newcastle, Spurs, and United next, and I think he can score in those games. Arsenal looking great, but you can get Mitrovic for this double, captain him, and then get Nketiah back in later on. But when you're getting rid of Martial, we could have a double in 20 and faces Bournemouth in 19. It becomes really difficult to sell him for a -4 hit. Good luck, Dylan, and everyone gone Mitrovic captain. Let's see how this goes. What could go wrong, mate? What could go wrong? I used the free hits to Stefan. Good luck, and that's quite an interesting choice. Maybe it will pay off. I have KDB bench for Andreas. I hope that's wise. Well, I probably would have started Andreas over him, but benching KDB would be very nerve-wracking. And the same goes for me with Almiron. Yep, locked in, Oa. Good luck as well, Ori. And I hope you get a green arrow too. Thank you, Oa. And I appreciate your kind words. I look forward to seeing Mitrovic being booked, injured, and sold. Well, that's a bit rude. Deadline gone. Yes, we are all done, and that has gone really quickly. By the way, the last an hour and 45 minutes, something like that. Arsenal to win with Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard scoring. I mean, that would be great. I'd take that, and I'm looking to get Odegaard into my team very soon. Actually, Captain Rashford. I like it. I honestly do. I feel like the only person that kept Martial over Mitrovic, let alone captaincy, need that Leicester game to be over ASAP. Yes, exactly. One return, not getting booked. I mean, I'd be happy with that from Mitrovic. And then he could do another, he could get another goal or something against Chelsea. He's definitely capable, for sure. Captain Sterling, yeah, you have mentioned him a few times in the stream. Good luck to you. I hope it pays off. Who doesn't love a big differential that pays off like that? And let's see if Sterling can finally show some of his Man City form. But hasn't really happened for him so far. Front three, Mitrovic, captain, Nunez, Haaland. Looks great to me. Nunez has the fixture. He can deliver. But in a lot of these scenarios that we've been provided today, I did say to bench Nunez. But yeah, let's wait and see. And I think it should be an exciting game. Let's see if Tony starts as well. I think that could have a big impact on how the game goes. Brentford will still be vulnerable defensively. And I still think Liverpool will score regardless. But if Tony starts, I think Liverpool could drop points here. Thank you. Best of luck to you as well. Started the season really badly, around 2.2 million rank. What do you think? Where do you think I can end the season? Gain 800k last 2 game weeks. Yeah, similar to me. I've also done really well since the restart. I mean, look, it's a difficult one because a lot can change. We've still got more doubles, by the way. We've got blanks. There's so much yet to happen. You could still finish top 10k. It's obviously unlikely. It's possible. Top 100k is definitely doable for you. Definitely. Even top 50. So yeah, I would say top 50k is achievable. Good luck to you as well, Scal. Thank you very much. I've gone Varane instead of Shaw. I just have this feeling about Varane, so I don't know. I mean, that's FPL. Sometimes just go for your gut and see how it goes. For me, Luke Shaw is just a bonus points machine, especially playing as a centre-back, and I'm very happy with him. I never expected him to be this good so far. And United, it looks like they could keep another clean sheet here against Bournemouth. I had a dream tonight a keeper scored 2 goals in a match. Well, that's not going to happen, surely, unless they're on penalties or something. Maybe Fulham will get Berleno on penalties because Mitrovic keeps missing them or something. But yeah, I just don't see that happening. I started Almiron, hope it could be a good differential. Oh yeah, honestly, I'm worried about benching Almiron, and I'm also worried about a few players I don't have, even Mason Mount, Kai Havertz. You know, one of these players could pop up and deliver. And the other player I'm worried about, as ever, is probably De Bruyne. I've got 3 premiums in my team, and I'm still worried about not having that other one in De Bruyne. You just can't have them all, but yeah, I think that's a good differential. Good luck, Chelsea Blues, and best of luck to you as well, DG. Good luck, Matthew. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. But then again, some of these players, like Luke Shaw, for example, when I brought him in, he had 5% ownership, or even lower, actually, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the template going into Game Week 17 was basically going for, what was it, Martial. And I know he's got lower ownership than Kane, but I think a lot of the kind of hardcore players, so to speak, didn't really go for Kane. So I've got a few picks in here that are a bit different. Even Botman, you know, I was a bit ahead of the curve there, actually, in terms of Botman. Kepa's a bit of a differential still. But yeah, I do agree with you. It's not going to be anything spectacular. You're not going to see the Cordova-Reed, Leno or Ream or something, you know, mad like that, even Havertz. But yeah. My team, Kepa, Trippier, White, Cancelo, Rashford, Salah, Saka, Andreas, Darwin, Haaland, Mitrovic, Bench, Ward, Almiron, Castagna, Bueno. Looks good to me, mate. Let's see. So yeah, you got 3 defenders. That makes sense. Yeah, I maybe would have played Almiron over Darwin, but I think most people would disagree with me, and they would have done what you did. So honestly, it's a great team. Looks fine. Nunez to haul big. I mean, it's possible. You know, he's due one, you could say. Better captain, Andreas or Mount? I would say Mount. Had a bad season, but as of now, I'm thinking, well, I'm on 980k, thinking of a top 100k finish. Definitely possible, definitely. Even 50k is possible, but it's a long journey until May, until the last game of the season, and we've got to be on it for the next few months. Roll the transfer because Shaw has Man City and Arsenal after, and maybe some Double Gameweek news coming soon. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I still think Shaw was a great transfer last week, and even now with Bournemouth, and then a potential double in 20, but we won't know until later next week, probably. Imagine the chaos of Mitrovic gets a yellow against Leicester. Well, it would not surprise me that much. I mean, my prediction is he will be, you know, available for the Chelsea game, and that's why I got him in. But you just never know in football. Oh yeah, I just said that. Sorry. See you. Time for some fish fingers with pasta and ketchup. What? Okay, yeah, fish fingers and stuff is fine, but with pasta, I mean, no, that's fine. Wait, pasta and fish fingers is fine, but with ketchup. Huh, okay, I mean, it's not too bad. It should be nice. I've probably done something like that before. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, good luck to you as well. And Darwin Brace, like I said, it's definitely possible. Is oh, you started Trippier, Duncan, Cancelo. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not sure who your other defenders were. If you had White, I probably would have started him with a Dunk, but that's a good backline. I think Cancelo will start. Just realized not selling Martial for Mitrovic probably meant I missed the price rise for Mitrovic and probably resulting in Martial price drop. Fair enough. I mean, look. For those that have Martial, I wouldn't be too pessimistic. He's not a great FPL option, but he's cheap. He's playing down the middle. He's facing an awful team. If he's ever to get a big return, I think it's now against Bournemouth, and he might have a double in 20 where he could do well against Leeds and even Man City possibly. So it's not the end of the world. I think that's still fairly decent. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's been a pleasure, and let's see how the lineups are. But we already covered Liverpool, and it does look like Robertson is benched and Tsimikas will start. Robertson's obviously injured. He should be back fairly soon. Gakpo might be on the bench, but let's keep an eye on that. He is someone to really look out for after Game Week 19, probably from 20 onwards. But even then, you know, for those that said De Bruyne down to Gakpo, I would not do that, especially next week. De Bruyne price goes down and Cancelo also. Yeah, we covered the price rises briefly at some stage of the stream. So check out fplstatistics.co.uk. Really good website, very reliable, the most reliable by far. I've gone for Pope. Is this bad? Or why am I not seeing anyone else doing it? probably because they're facing Arsenal, and I don't see a clean sheet personally. The reason why I went for Trippier is because he can get points from so many different avenues. Look, Pope is a great goalkeeper option long term, but the reason why not many people have him this week is because of Arsenal, and why they don't have them or have him in general is because Pope is 5.2, 5.4 million, something like that, and you've got Kep who's only 4.5, and he's got a double game week as well. I forgot to change Cancelo. What will happen now? Well, you can't make any changes now. The deadline's done, and you have to rely on someone missing out. Or is this getting rid of Cancelo? Yeah, you can't make the transfer this week. You'll have to be for Game Week 20. See you, Sonia, as well. Thank you very much. Good point, Dylan Amron over Darwin. But if you're not going to play Darwin over Brentford, possibly without Tony, then he's not worth having. Well, yeah, in my opinion, Nunez is worth selling anyway, but he would still be an uncomfortable benching for me. You know, if I had him, and in your scenario, I probably would have benched him, but it would still be very uncomfortable for me to do that. And I probably think he's not worth having, but still, he has these 1 or 2 games you can go ballistic, like he did in 16 against Southampton. He can do it again. I captain Andreas. Who would have thought people was going to captain a 4.5 million midfielder in double game week? That's how FPL can be sometimes. I'm just going for Mitrovic. Let's see if it pays off or if it backfires. I did captain Nunez. What do you think? I think it's a step too far personally, but look, if you have a good feeling about a player, go for it. Don't let someone like me, talk you out of it. Because I could be wrong. You know, he could haul, and a lot of people will be outside my door with pitchforks saying, why did he tell me to bench him? It happens. Got 2 free transfers, Game Week 20, thinking Martial to Greenwood and Andreas to Foden for the double. Yeah, that looks good. That's a good position to be in. I will probably have to take a hit if I want to make multiple transfers, and I might just stick with the one. Thoughts on Modric and Felix to Arsenal, Dylan? Yeah, Felix looks a bit more likely now. It looks like we could get him on loan for 21 million euros as a package. That looks decent. Let's wait and see, though, because Chelsea and United are also interested, but that would be a good signing. I think Arsenal needs someone who can play on the wing and also up front, and we need a bit more squad depth, because if one of Martinelli or Saka gets injured, Arsenal are in big, big trouble. Dylan, I have Darwin, Haaland, Mitrovic. That's a good front line. I have no problems with that whatsoever. Like I said, Darwin's not my favourite. I think there are better strikers out there, but Darwin is capable. He definitely is. I brought him in Game Week 16. The best transfer of my season was getting him in for Wilson, but I just think in the long term, I would rather go elsewhere. Start Gabriel, White or Cancelo. I would have started Cancelo. I captain Mitrovic, yeah. It'll be interesting to see the figures, but I think Haaland will be the most popular, maybe closely followed by Mitrovic. And in terms of active players, maybe Mitrovic would be the #1 pick. No, I did not have Mitrovic last week, so I brought him in after his penalty miss. And I think if he wasn't a yellow flag, I probably would have had him in Game Week 17 and instead of Trossard. But with that, I just didn't consider him. And in the end, we all know how that ended. Yeah, look, that's what I mean. You know, Nunez, the amount of chances he's getting, the quality of chances, it's only a matter of time before he just goes ballistic. And it happened in 16. He showed some good form before the World Cup, and I was still interested in 17, you know, in terms of considering Nunez as a possibility. But I always said, if I want to cover Liverpool offensively, it's always Salah. And now I might even consider someone like Gakpo as well as an 8 million midfielder. Exactly. You just never know when that's going to be. What do you think about Gakpo? I've seen him a few times this season, so I've seen him play against Arsenal, home and away in the Europa League. I've seen him against Argentina. He didn't particularly impress me in any of those games, especially against Argentina. I think he was a ghost, but he is a good player, really good with goals and assists, and in FPL, I think he will be a good option if he can acclimatise quickly to the Premier League and also to his teammates. But the big thing I'm looking out for is where he will play. Will he play as an attacking midfielder? Will Liverpool play him down on the left? And they could even play him up front alongside a Salah or a Nunez. And I'd be very interested to see. He's a very versatile player, and I think he can bring a lot. And Liverpool have so much squad depth in that position. We're already agreed with Modric, personal terms, and sending the second bid. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much, you know, always calling up for Arsenal to sign him. So yeah, I'm not surprised by that. But I just don't think he's worth 100 million or even 60 million and above. But have to pay that, unfortunately, for a key player. They don't want to part with him that easily in the middle of the season. So, yeah, just have to deal with it. Really nervous, bench Cancelo and Gabriel for Dean, Shaw and Trippier. Swapped Almiron last minute for Trossard and captain Mitrovic. Probably the hardest week so far. Wow. I would have started Almiron over Trossard, but I don't... You know, it's kind of typical. Most people would have gotten rid of Trossard now if they had him in 17, and he'll probably deliver now. But, yeah, I can see why he did that. I can understand your team selection. I wouldn't have benched Shaw or Trippier for Cancelo, although it's close between Cancelo and Trippier. And Luca Dean, yeah, that's fair enough. I think that's still a good team selection. It is a difficult week, but I think we'll manage. The Game Week 20 transfers, Odegaard or Bernardo, and Akanji or White. I still think White is better than Akanji, and Odegaard's better than Bernardo in FPL. Let me make that clear. So yeah, I'd go for Odegaard and White. But if I were to go for one City player from those you mentioned, Owa, it would be Akanji. Look how lovely that Brighton badge looks on the screen. Fair enough, yeah. Yeah, it looks decent. It looks decent. And I saw the the homecoming you gave to McAllister. It was pretty nice to see. Do you think Cunha will be an option 5.5 million striker? I've seen him before, mainly in World Cup qualifiers and Copa America. Yeah, he could be a decent option, but really, I'm looking at a pool of players. You've already got enough, and I think that's what I'm sticking with. So Kane, Haaland, of course, and then we're looking at the more affordable ones like Mitrovic, Tony, Nketiah. I think those are my favourite strikers in the game, and I don't think I'd look elsewhere. Mistakenly put Almiron over Cancelo. What an L. I probably would have done the same, though. I probably would have. I went for Thiago Silva in the end. Fingers crossed. Good luck, JR. And I've seen a lot of love for Thiago Silva in the last few streams. Let's see how he does and who is the high-scoring defender. Cancelo won't start as Emmanuel. Where did you get that? Did we get any more news? Let's see if I can maybe get some confirmation before we go off quickly. But yeah, that game is tomorrow, isn't it? So yeah, we've only got one game today. I'd be surprised if we got, kind of confirmation already. Yeah, McAllister, I'll be honest, I kind of doubted him. The reason why is because Argentina had a very settled midfield in the World Cup, or before the World Cup. Lo Celso, Paredes and De Paul. Two of them were basically missing out for most of the World Cup, and Lo Celso was a huge miss going into it, and I thought that could cost Argentina any World Cup aspirations. And McAllister, I mean, what an incredible way to turn up and make that position his own. And now he's competing with Lo Celso to be a #1 starter there as the left centre mid for Argentina. So yeah, McAllister, really impressive him. Only 23. He's only going to get better. I would love Arsenal to sign him, but a lot like these players like Enzo Fernandez, I would love them to kind of stay at their club as well for at least a little bit more. He's developing well at Brighton. So yeah, maybe in the summer or maybe later on. But I'd love Arsenal to get him. I don't want him going Chelsea, that's for sure. I'll say what I said last week, and look, this could change every single week, but for me, Arsenal or City, they're going for the title. I think Newcastle, Liverpool, United, I think those three are competing for third and fourth. United are looking good, I will admit, and if they win their game in hand, they are third, and they've only got one loss in the last 15. It's a really close call, and I think United are better than Liverpool defensively. That's another plus. They've also got Casemiro in the midfield. Okay, so my prediction, and I'll try to stick with this now. And look, this might sound a bit harsh because Newcastle's been great, but I think they will be fifth. I think Newcastle will be fifth. I think Liverpool fourth, United third, and then we'll see who wins the league because I don't want to jinx Arsenal. I missed the stream and deadline 2. Thankfully, I did KDB to Sterling. I put the armband on. I like that lip up. Good luck, and it's a very bold move. I've seen a few Sterling captainers, not many. And that could be great. I hope it pays off for you. Hey there, Captain Mount and held Martial, Darwin, Haaland attack. Your opinion? I like it. I probably would have done Darwin to Mitrovic, but in the end, it's not completely necessary. And you might not want Mitrovic in the long term anyway. So that's fine. I think Mount is a great captaincy option this week. And he could deliver against Fulham and maybe do something against City as well. Nick puts his team. I like it. Don't like a goalkeeper, I'll be honest. Gaeta, facing Spurs as well. I don't see a clean sheet. Estupinian, yeah, he's decent this week. Trippier, Dean, good defence. Martinelli, Salah, Rashford. Andreas, yeah, that's looking very solid. Ward-Prowse, wow, that's an interesting one as well. And the forward line speaks for itself. I'm really low in the ranks. I need to take risks. Any ideas? It's a tricky one. So if you check out my my team in Game Week 17, which pretty much was what you see on screen, but I had Trossard in for Andres Pereira, I had Greenwood in for Mitrovic, and Cancelo in for Cucurella, you would say it looks fairly template. Yeah, I've actually halved my rank from 1.1 million to 495,000, and look, luck comes into it. Luck is a huge part of FPL, but don't just go different for the sake of it. Don't just go for like 11 differentials or something. That's not going to change your situation. And if the template players do well and you don't have them, you're just going to plow down even more in the ranks. You're going to keep going down. So I think it's just about building a solid base, building something you're happy with. And sometimes don't just look at Twitter. So, for example, I went for Harry Kane instead of just going for Martial and going for these kind of options. And I'm happy with that decision, even though it hasn't really paid off so far. I think it's really important not to get too delved up into all these different teams you see on Twitter and YouTube. I think that could influence your thinking a lot. I pretty much avoided every single video. I just built my team, made my own ideas, made my own videos and research, and then I presented them. But honestly, I think it's really important to not be bogged down too much into what other people say, and also don't just go different for the sake of it. Having a few differentials here and there can be the difference. For me, it was Kepa and Luke Shaw. It can sometimes pay off, sometimes it doesn't. But what you need to do is be patient and give your transfers time, and try to be very sure of the transfer you're doing. And for example, in Game Week 20, if United have a double, you could maybe consider something a bit different and unorthodox, like 2 United defenders, Dallo if he's back in the team, and Shaw, and go for Rashford in the midfield, something like that. But honestly, there's a long way to go. There's a lot of double game weeks and blanks to start making up the ground, so don't worry about it just yet. And I'm not even thinking about my rank right now, honestly. Villa has 2 home games, with Wolves being the first one, so I swapped James for him, swapped Darwin for Mitrovic. That looks completely fine. Like I said, Dean looks like a decent option for the next few, but I still am not convinced about Villa defensively. Breaking Gakpo is not involved for Liverpool. Yep, that's not a surprise. Klopp was basically saying that in the last few days, but thank you for that. I wasn't aware. Gakpo in 8 million is 8 million in FPL. That's massive. Yes, as a midfielder, 8 million. That looks great. I'll be honest, it does. I thought he'd be 8.5. If not, he'd be 8. And that's even better. Music to my ears, and I am considering him for sure, but not yet. Except Haaland, who do you think has been the best player so far this season? I think it's between the likes of... So, look, it is close. I would put the likes of Odegaard in the mix, especially in the last few games. I think he's been the best player. Trippier, Almiron, you can't forget Almiron. Saka's been exceptional. For me, Thomas Partey has been fantastic for Arsenal. I think from City, De Bruyne is also in the conversation, of course. So that would be my kind of top 6, 7. Yeah, I think those are the best players so far this season. So who do I think is the best? I'd say it's between Almiron and Odegaard for me. I agree. Leave McAllister alone. Chelsea can get stuff. They want to dip in and take everything from our club. Yeah, I'd be very frustrated as a Brighton fan as well, taking your manager, your whole coaching staff, even scouts as well, I heard, and stuff like that. And even, they're linked to Caicedo. They bought Cucurella in the summer. Yeah, I would definitely be pissed off at them, like you are. Thanks for the insight. Good luck. Thank you, Daily Develop. I appreciate it. FPL's a funny game. Dropped me from 200k to 600k before the restart. Same decisions have risen me to 250k. Exactly that. Sometimes it just boils down to luck. For example, last week I had Botman come off the bench for Cancelo. How many times will that happen this season with Pep not subbing on Cancelo when he's benched? Not many times. Thoughts on Potter being outclassed by Awani Masterclass? I mean, the thing is with Potter, I think Chelsea fans should give him time, but I don't think he will be given that time. That's the way I see it. If he can't get results soon, I think he'll be in trouble. And that's only, 1 win of the last 6 games? I think 2 points from the last available 12 or something. It's not looking good for Chelsea, but at the same time, I think they will get their act together, but this season's a bit of a write-off. And I'm not too surprised with Chelsea dropping points, even against Forest. I thought that they could concede. Yeah, Tsimikas starts, Robertson out. Yeah, we were talking about this. That league lineup looked like it was right, and no surprises there then. Thank you, JR. Thank you very much. Good luck to you as well. A happy new year too. Trossard isn't worth it for how expensive he is, right? I think he is still a decent option, but, when you've got Almiron, Odegaard, Martinelli, Rashford, all cheaper. They're just all much better options. Then, not to mention, for a little bit more, you can get Saka. Yeah, I just can't find a space for Trossard in the team right now with the form he's showing. How would you explain Odegaard's role to a basketball rugby enthusiast? I don't know rugby or basketball that much, so maybe I'm not the best person to ask this, but Odegaard is an artist. He is a creative player. And not only that, he's actually a bit of an all-rounder. He's got an engine. He's everywhere. I don't know how to describe that in rugby or basketball terms, but I mean, I'm not going to compare him to LeBron James, am I? But a bit of an all-rounder. Not to that level, but yeah, he's just a beautiful player to watch, basically. Good luck, Zvonimir. Thank you very much, and good luck. Darwin, please score. Let's wait and see. I think if Darwin scores and those owners, that still had him, started him, even captained him, that would be massive. Of course, I would consider Gakpo. I even said it. I am considering him, but there's no point going for him just yet because, like I said, there's literally 5 midfielders already that are fantastic, that I would love to have all of them if I could, but I've also got Salah and De Bruyne that I also want. So it's difficult to kind of find a space for him, but I think he is definitely in the mix, and I will consider him. I think Saka will be better still, Martinelli, Odegaard, Almiron, Rashford, but Gakpo is in the conversation, and I will be looking at him very soon. Yeah, exactly. He is a hit or miss. You know, Brighton can score 3, he's not involved, but then he could score all 3 goals himself against Liverpool. That's just the type of player he is. Feast or famine at times. My team is very template except for Wan-Bissaka and Nunez. Yeah, and Wan-Bissaka, as long as he stays in the lineup, is a great differential, very cheap as well. And Nunez as well, you know, he definitely has the potential and he should do the business. It's just a matter of when he can get it into the back of the net. I trusted on Dunk versus Forest, and I went to the game and we failed to win at home. Exactly that. I mean, Brighton have been... I think they've only won 1 game under De Zerbi at home, and that was against Chelsea, the 4-1 thrashing. So I think home form is definitely a concern there. Thank you to everyone, by the way, for tuning in. I know we've literally got the lineups in 4 minutes, but we have covered the Liverpool one already. The big news will be whether Tony starts or not. Most of us don't have him anyway, and he might not even be available after this week with the possible suspension. We're going to see what happens in the hearing on the 4th of January, and then a decision should be made fairly soon as well. But thank you to everyone for tuning in today. It's been very much appreciated. I wish you a happy new year. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and subscribe. Oh, I just said the same thing twice. Well done. I did it again. But yeah, smash the like button, all that stuff. You know the drill. Hit the notification bell. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM. And you can also check the links in the description below for the Patreon and also the channel memberships. And there are a lot of perks there. I'm maybe looking to also boost up some tiers. I'll be considering that as well. So if you join as a kind of base member, I can also upgrade you on Patreon to the highest tier possible. I am considering stuff like that for the next few months. And you can also check out many other stuff such as the FPL League. We've got, I think, a few thousand people in there if I'm not mistaken, but we can still build up even more. And don't forget to check out UCL fantasy content on this channel. We covered the World Cup over the last 2 months. That was great. And now we're back with FPL. So I wish you all the best for Game Week 19. Enjoy this double game week. I hope you have a great 2023 and I'll see you very soon.